Wow.
Humans are living in a state of total illusion. Everything they think they're doing is just in their minds. It's not real.
Wow.
If they want to experience reality, well, then they have to escape the matrix. And to do that, they must take the red pill. Now, only then can they see the world the way it really is.
After this, there is no turning back.
Wow.
Let's talk about college. In 1990, the average cost of a 4-year bachelor's degree at a private university was $9,000.
Uh-oh.
And 80% of students graduated with no student debt and a well-paying job that allowed them to buy a home and raise a family.
Baby Reaper in YouTube chat said, Destiny is an actual loser. Do you want to debate that in Discord? You clown.
Without having to make a damn OnlyFans or a Patreon page that hosts exclusive content for $5 a month. Today, the cost of that same 4-year degree is $62 grand, 7 times more expensive, and the average student.
We talk about inflation data today. Maybe, but do you know anything about inflation? Is like people don't understand. People just don't have a grasp of like the basic economic concepts related to monetary policy and like CPI, like how goods are chosen for basket of goods. If you're curious, if you're wondering like what the risk is for some like massive inflationary environment in the United States, you can find a bunch of super easy graphs. If you go to either Google or Bing, turn the safe search settings off and just look for sonic inflation, and it'll show you like what it looks like to be in a hyperinflated environment.
Leaves college unemployed with 40 grand in student loan debt, only to be stuck mixing margaritas and making latte art in Bushwick, wishing to God they'd went to trade school for HVAC installation. Still, enrollment numbers haven't dropped really, and the youth appears to still be playing the damn game, forking over wads of cash to 4-year private universities like Brown, Chapman, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Loyola University, New Orleans campus. But let's keep it real, yo. These schools are telling us bullshit. What if I told you you didn't have to do that? You can learn just as much and even more with a proper red-pilled education at Red Pill University. According to their website, the Red Pill University is a coalition of
I heard the noise and it triggered me. Can I just say that it is an unacceptable lifestyle to set like 6 alarms, that no sane human being has to do this or should ever be doing this. And if you do it, you should feel bad. Don't. You do not need to set 6 alarms on your phone.
individuals and organizations that share a common problem, which is that peaceful, law-abiding citizens are experiencing ever-increasing control over their lives by governments and corporations. The Red Pill University was founded by Edward Griffin, an American author and filmmaker that some people call a conspiracy theorist.
Hi, I'm Ed Griffin, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Red Pill Expo, which is a project of Red Pill University.
So as you can see, we're in front of Holiday Inn right now. But it's not just a regular weekend at Holiday Inn. Inside right now is the Red Pill University Benefactor Private Meeting, where all the benefactors who pay over $500 a month to Red Pill University are here to discuss all things red pilled. So
when you were working, you never set 5+ alarms at night, you knew you would struggle to wake up? Fuck no, because I used to do this. I did it for like 1 week, and then I was like, wait a second. Why would I set 5 alarms to wake up and then just have a shitty 30 minutes of sleep when I could just set 1 alarm and at least like steal another 20 minutes of sleep? Fuck that.
we're gonna go inside, see if we can see what's going on, and maybe, hopefully, gain some knowledge. We decided to start off in the
I will say though, I don't understand how this works. There has to be some like cosmic, universal, just like to fuck with humans or whatever. You ever have these periods of life where you go to sleep, midnight, wake up at 5:30 a.m. and you're fucking wired. You're like, oh shit, I'm awake. Oh God, I'm not tired. Oh fuck, I can't go back to sleep. Fuck it, we're up now, boys. And then, do you ever have some shit where you have to be awake at like 9 a.m. and you go to sleep at like 1, you fall asleep at like 1:30, and like you set an alarm for like 8:30 and you wake up and it's like 7 hours, 50 minutes, you're like, oh, I can't. Oh, fuck, I can't. I have to go. I need to make an excuse. I can't. I only got 7 hours and 5 minutes of sleep. Oh, I have to wake up. Oh, I can't. Why? Why does that happen? Don't do the REM cycle shit. It's not that. It's not that. There's something about when you have to wake up at a certain time, it's excruciating. I don't know why. But when you If you just wake up, you're like, fuck, I'm not supposed to be awake right now. And you're like, I'm never going back to sleep.
Conference room where Dr. Lee Merritt, who's from a small town where chickens are illegal, was giving a presentation on how the ruling class is controlling citizens using nefarious tactics.
You're either being blackmailed, you're being extorted, or you're going to be murdered.
Yes.
One of the things that woke me up to the fact that this is a global conspiracy to murder us, at the very top are the controllers. One thing they never tell you, that the people in charge worship Moloch, the old religion, sacrifice children, and promote cannibalism. And
Damn.
I don't know about you, but I just don't go to dinner parties like this. So who benefits? And I'm just throwing this out there. They're keeping their bloodline very, very tightly controlled so they don't lose these powers. I mean, I'm not saying they're not human beings for sure, but I'm just saying something's wrong here. The reason that you don't know his name is they hide in the shadows. When children are used up, they're parted out for organ parts. They're forced to do this at some point. If you take the money and the fame, you're bought into this.
Yeah, nothing to see here. I'm sure that's what you guys do on the weekend also. Mock killings, and kissing skulls.
They're openly satanic. Red, black, anger, fear, lies, deception, propaganda.
So yeah, there was a CIA project the last 6 years against me, but I take that as an honor. Stop following orders. Resistance is victory. Out here's for G. Edward Griffin again.
I'm not going to change my message. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
G. Edward Griffin.
Unvaccinated lives do matter. And I used to be a spinal and orthopedic surgeon, and now I'm a professional medical rebel. We can't accept evil, and we can't participate in evil. Don't let them use your hands to kill people.
Okay,
it's time
Queen.
to repent and turn away from that. Don't participate. And how much is your job?
Do you guys know if you wake up in a bad part of your sleep cycle? Do you guys know if you wake up in a bad part of your sleep cycle, you'll be more tired than if you wake up at the good part of your sleep cycle? Did you guys know that? Thank you. I didn't know that. I've never heard that in my entire life. Please, more people spam about that in chat. Yes. Do you ever wish to be Light Yagami? Every day of my life, I wish to be Light Yagami, and I would write all of your names in my death note.
They're coming after your children.
What do you mean?
There's a pattern here of killing the elderly, killing the Down syndrome patients. I didn't read a Bible for 40 years of my life. I'm not a churchgoer. I'm just saying there's real good, there's real evil. You need to choose the right side here.
Needless to say, I was less than surprised that this was the curriculum within Red Pill University.
We are living in a parallel universe. We're living in an alternate universe. We do not understand what reality is.
True.
And the red pill is the pill that allows people to understand and see the world as it really is.
True.
How many people are enrolled in Red Pill University?
In the whole program, I think we've got close to 25,000 total.
Damn.
Americans are waking up, and I'm really excited because I think we have maybe a higher level of people
awareness,
understanding that truth and starting to question the authorities.
You gotta ask questions. Doesn't matter what subject it is. If you don't ask the questions,
you're not gonna know the answer.
You're doing your part as a citizen to say, well, I don't know, why would we do that? We just go along with it. I think that's the biggest thing that's getting everyone in trouble is we're not asking questions anymore. We've quit that part.
And that's what we need to do. Americans are all about having the freedom, having the ability to question authority. To question when we're told something, we should have the freedom to make the choice for ourselves.
The goal is to red pill people, just like the Matrix. Take the blue pill, stay asleep, take the red pill, and wake up.
The fuck up.
Wake Obama's running the White House. I think he's serving his third term. I don't think anything is accidental.
Obama has been spotted at the White House multiple times since his presidency, missing a jump shot.
I think it's all being orchestrated, it's being planned, it's being implemented in a way that steers us into a one-world collectivist government. Everything that's happened in the world is planned. I do a podcast called Connecting the Dots.
In a way, it's comforting being around so many conspiracy theorists. Not because I spent so many of my formative years in the halls of their conferences and trade shows, but because they possess a true confidence in the human spirit, or rather, the ability of mankind to keep secrets for a long period of time. In a world where constant human error, loose-lipped clout chasers, and other random variables throw straightforward operations way off track on a daily basis, it's almost comforting to envision a larger, perfectly coordinated nebulous force pulling the strings behind the scenes. It assigns order to chaos, while allowing adherents to skip the intellectual legwork of figuring out who the hell these controllers actually are. Lizards? Demons? Nephilims? Hakubians? Jews? Probably all the above. The point is that somebody's got a plan.
What's the history of the university? Like, who started it?
That would be Mr. Griffin's thing. He wants to leave a legacy of knowledge behind for people. So G. Edward Griffin did start that, and since all this stuff goes clear back to the 69.
So this is G. Edward Griffin,
Nice.
This is.
What can you tell us about the man himself?
He is a smart man. At 93 years old, I think he's got more knowledge and more ability than people at 30 do. And he just really wants the knowledge out there for people to grow with it.
What do you think's like the best DVD here, if you could recommend one purchase? 'Cause I'm going to buy something.
But I would say The World Without Cancer is a cover on the B-17. And since cancer is getting bigger and bigger and becoming more of a problem, people need alternatives.
Nobody ever talks about big cancer. Notice that?
I truly believe Ed's biggest legacy is World Without Cancer, simply because if you take away your health, you'll pay all your money to get your health back. We know the answer to cancer. We've known it for, in the United States, probably 100 years. People have been wiping out cancer with nutrition, and we've known about it, but they've done a great job at keeping us not knowing that. So basically you're treated like an idiot if you believe that cancer is a nutritional deficiency, and that's what it is. This world is not about healing people. This world is about money, finances.
The answer is that the modern medical business model is to control a disease and keep it alive, but never cure it.
It's much more profitable to treat someone with chemotherapy, radiation, and drugs or surgery, and less profitable doing it with nutrition.
That's a bad business model. If you cure a disease, you lose a customer.
Follow the money all the way down the rabbit hole. You end up in a battle between good and evil. That's what it comes down to. If you get down to the deepest parts of it.
Wait, holy fuck. That's actually so insightful. Like, if you had somebody sick forever, you could just, like, make so much money treating them constantly. Damn. That's insidious AF, bros. Wow.
And many people nowadays are going down the rabbit hole and finding the extreme evil that they find on the bad side, let's call it, the collectivism side, where everybody's grouped together in the same pile. And the other side of it is the individual sides. And I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I have all the facts to back it up, and I have all the information to back it up. So that's my passion.
You ever feel like there's an institution built on feeding you information that may or not be true in a sick attempt to make you a mindless cog in their belief system? That's because there is, and it's called the mainstream media. Different outlets push different agendas, shaping the story to fit their own narrative, which is why independent reporting matters, and we here at Channel 5 are committed to bringing y'all raw, unfiltered coverage straight from the streets. But before we even go put boots on the ground, we get informed using Ground News. Ground News is a dope-ass news aggregate. It lets you see exactly how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering
I've been hearing a lot
the
about
same
this Ground
story
News thing.
using their biased distribution tool. Just look at how the mainstream media is covering Michelle Obama's recent comments about the Trump administration's deportation policy. This article's headline from the left-wing radical Huffington Post reads, Michelle Obama reveals what keeps her up at night about Trump's second term, while the far-right Gateway Pundit reports Michelle Obama claims deportation issue keeps her up at night after her husband deported 3 million illegals. With Ground News, you can track and compare these dueling narratives to see what's actually being said, and most importantly, what's being left out. Another thing I love about Ground News is how it actually helps you figure out what's really news by showing you how many sources are covering a story. For example, the story about Mark Carney's Liberal Party winning Canada's recent election has 612 news sources. So you know it's not just some bullshit being covered by a handful of small outlets.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was real, but if a lot of people covered it, you must have won.
Kind of transparency lets you judge the credibility of an article before repeating it in a conversation and realizing you've been fed a one-sided narrative and are now a cog in the machine. Another feature I love to use is called the blind spot tool, which shows you the stories that might not be appearing in your typical media bubble. We know that it's easy to get trapped in an algorithmic echo chamber, and Ground News helps you break out of that cycle by surfacing stories you might otherwise miss. And we can't miss a thing here at Channel 5, which is why we trust Ground News to help us cut right through the noise. And right now, you can subscribe for 40% off the Unlimited Access Vantage plan, which comes out to less than $5 a month. Just scan the QR code or click the link below to sign up. So check it out, stay informed, and don't let the media tell you what to think.
One really cool thing that I've learned about Red Pill University is that if you get to that final benefactor tier, you actually get free legal counsel from someone named Payman Matahede.
Wait, hold on, wait, how do you join this again?
Created something called the Freedom Law School. So I looked him up. He's actually the most wanted man in America by the IRS.
Oh, never mind.
I think he owes them like $60 million.
Okay, wait, but hold on. That's a good advertisement. You scammed the IRS out of $60 million? Based?
But I've seen some videos of him and he seems pretty awesome, so I'm gonna go in there and see if I can find him.
But surprisingly, Paymon was the one who found us. And of course, he was passing out the true food of freedom, pickles.
I bought it from a local store.
Oh, hell yeah, thanks, dude.
Anybody else got one, huh, bubbies? The best pickles? My name is Paymon Motahede, and I am the most wanted man by the IRS, and I've defeated them, as you can see by the cartoon right there. This is IRS myth and the IRS reality. Don't be afraid of the myth. Look at the reality. IRS stands for, it's as you see up here, it's really freaky.
Oh shit.
Soviet Union in America is collapsing. IRS is a failed agency. They are a creature of the media. They're the same for over 100 years told us IRS is a god that will take you. In fact, look at the cartoons I got here. Right, look right here. These cartoons really tell it to you. This is the United States government. They claim they're here to help us, but they're not. There's a famous saying that people suffer for lack of knowledge. And it is true. And what is the solution?
Can we watch something else? This is too scary. No, you need to be able to confront this head on.
Seek the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And that's what the Red Pill Expo is all about.
What's your position here at the university?
Well, the Red Pill University is different than other universities out there. It's not a government-approved or sanctioned university. It's a forum where people get to educate themselves.
Ooh.
Because real education is not what someone indoctrinates you in your brain.
True.
It's you yourself seeking the truth and empowering yourself.
Okay.
Freedom Law School, which I'm president of, for example, I provide courses for people to educate themselves about the law and by understanding basics of law, how they can be free.
Okay.
In America, for example, we've been turned into slaves. There is no law requiring us to file and pay federal income taxes.
Oh, shit.
I have not filed and paid any federal income taxes openly, and teaching others to do the same for over 30 years. There are 7 steps to free yourself of IRS deception, robbery, and slavery.
After speaking to Paymon, it was time to meet the man himself, G. Edward Griffin, the creator of the university. Griffin has been in the game for decades, speaking out against things like the Federal Reserve, different aspects of communism, and has been critical of the United Nations. Some of his better-known works include World Without Cancer, The Discovery of Noah's Ark, The Capitalist Conspiracy, and The Creature from Jekyll Island. We purchased a copy of The Creature from Jekyll Island and lined up to see Edward Griffin in person and ask him a few questions.
Well, looks like we're coming to the end of the line.
Yes, this is
so
it.
drum up some more new business here.
You cool if we film a little bit?
Yeah.
Can you tell us your name and what year you were born?
I can't think of anything funny to say, so I'll just say my name. I'm Ed Griffin. I was born in 1931. I was raised up on the east side of Detroit, which is considered to be a...
East side, that's where I'm from.
Not such a good part of town. I had no idea of that when I was young. I thought it was quite normal.
You say that we should watch on Kick because you get paid more there, but what if we have YouTube Premium? Oh no, Kick pays way more.
Was fortunate enough to go to school, learn a few things, and then I got serious about life when I found out what was happening in the real world.
What do you think is the main issues facing the world today?
Yeah, tell us.
Freedom. I would say in one word, it's individual responsibility, individualism, the freedom to be fulfilled in what you want to do and what you feel you should do, freedom to be human.
Cool. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Did you have the YouTube delay to force us to Kick? No, I added the YouTube delay to make my cuts and shit higher quality. It does drive a little more traffic to Kick, which is nice. But the I noticed that like when August has openings for my videos now, like these cameras aren't.
Okay, why don't you have the ball? Do you think it was?
When he does like these big zooms, the resolution on the shit actually looks a billion times better than before because he had to blow up a much smaller camera. Why can't you do quality on Kick embed? I don't know. Ask them. They're working on it. Okay.
So what name should I put in here?
You can just put Andrew.
A-N-G-R-E-W.
Yeah, thanks.
You should make Kick your default embed on DGG. I mean, I think more people still prefer the YouTube one, so I'm trying to balance the experience. Okay.
You gonna read it, Andrew?
Hell yeah, I'm gonna read it.
Are you?
Andrew,
I am.
I mean,
what do you think
it's okay becoming deceptive at places like this and tell people you're from channel whatever?
I am from
know
Channel
who
5.
you are.
Wait till you see the video that we make.
Okay, so this is gonna be on. This isn't a documentary.
No, this is for YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, I promise.
So it's YouTube, but you're
Yeah.
not channel whatever.
I am Channel 5 on YouTube.
Are you? Channel 5 on YouTube. Okay. Well, I'm just saying I don't like the deception, man.
You do know that like YouTube doesn't have channels, right?
I watch your stuff. Some of your stuff's okay. But you know you're coming here to punk these people.
Don't
yes,
think that's
you
true.
Are. 100%.
Andrew, what's your most important thing?
In life?
In life.
Probably being independent, not selling out.
I mean, this is the guy. That's why, you know,
Yeah.
I highly respect you.
I've been watching
I would hate to have you put him in a negative light.
I bet you I'll give you 10 grand if he looks bad.
10 grand?
Yes.
Well, that's nice. I'm Jason Burgess.
Andrew.
I know
hey,
who you are.
if this guy looks bad, I'll give you $10,000.
All right, well, that's good, because, I mean, he's done some great
That has nothing to do with that.
You're not going to take the 10 grand?
I'll take the 10 grand.
No, I'm just saying, I actually care about this, so.
Do you really?
Yeah, I'm interested in alternative education in general.
Will you do my show?
He said his name was Jason Burmez.
Hey everybody, Jason Burmez here.
And claimed to be the creator of Loose Change.
I'm the guy that did Loose Change.
Oh, shit. Wait, what?
Everybody, Jason Burmez here.
And claimed to...
How old is this guy?
Be the creator.
He looks pretty good. I would have assumed the Loose Change Maker was like 50 years old. Didn't that come out in like 2005? Series films between 2005 and 2009. Jason Burmez. Wait, how old is this guy? Oh, fuck me.
Creator of Loose Change.
I'm the guy that did Loose Change.
A controversial documentary from back in the day about the September 11th attacks.
They were barely out of high school when they made those videos, though? Is that true? Okay.
I should note that Burmez is not the director, but one of 6 producers involved, alongside Alex Jones and Tim Spark.
Alex Jones was involved in Loose Change? I actually didn't know that. I had no clue. Damn.
Coincidentally, a fair amount of people credit Loose Change as being their red pill moment.
But I'm a freedom of speech guy. The thing is that I see so much of the deplatforming for misinformation or disinformation that may or may not be. Obviously, they've shifted that with things like malinformation, right? Which can be truthful, but it's basically harmful to their agenda. That's a problem for me. And again, it seems like a right-left issue on that thing, but flip the script and have it be someone the Republicans don't like, and I think they do the same thing.
You are fake news.
Too, I don't think conservatives are going to save us. I don't think the Republicans are going to save us. I don't think the Democrats are going to save us. I think it is individuals, and quite frankly, individualism, that's why he's important, is really what the Constitution and Bill of Rights are really all about, right?
Wow.
They're enshrining the rights of an individual, especially with the First Amendment, your freedom of speech, and your Fourth Amendment, to be free in your persons and property. And I think that's important.
I wanted to ask you, like, in your opinion, what can we do to make our reporting, like, more fair?
It's a good question, man. I'm not necessarily against the gotcha moments, right? And this is the first time we've met, so I don't know what's in your heart.
Positivity, for sure.
Well, I hope so, Andrew. I'm all about people that are motivated and putting things out there. And like I said, I've seen your stuff, and I realize, you were able to sell something to HBO, which is incredible, right? That's very tough to do in this day and age. I just want something that is not pushing either side, because I think the extremes on both sides are ridiculous, man.
For sure.
And I'll watch some more of your stuff, and maybe I'll have a little more constructive criticism, but I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
like, I hope that you understand, like, when I see G. Edward Griffin, I kind of, I don't want to see that guy get punked. The other guys, well, whatever. Like, I guess that's it, Andrew.
Cool, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
This guy was so happy for the first time in his life to have somebody listen to him who wasn't, like, immediately judgmental. He was enamored. Bro was enamored.
Appreciate you.
Well, surprise everybody, I got kicked out. I guess they figured out that I was not indeed a benefactor. I don't give them $500 a month. I'm just a guy who cares about the truth. It's a bummer they think that I'm a, like, hardcore, like, Antifa, Daily Show, HBO, Deep State, Biden sellout, but, fuck it, we gotta keep pushing. But this is a very nice hotel with a great pool, so I'm probably gonna go in the hot tub and try to red pill myself without any help, because obviously they don't want to assist me in my red pilling. Hey, but Pete, there's 2 crickets fucking right here. What the hell? You guys ever seen that before?
Channel 5 live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine.
Fuck the authority, Channel 5 News.
Channel 55. We don't fuck with custers. And 5 is the best number.
Hey, what's up, guys? Oh, shit. Hey, man, thanks for that web link. It's really working. I don't know if you guys missed the memo, but we just dropped an entire feature film. That's right, a full-blown movie at www.dearkellyfilm.com.
DearKellyFilm.com.
It's an action
Whoa, what's up, Shoe Nice 22?
packed movie that revolves around the life and times of Kelly Johnson, aka Kelly J. Patriot.
Kobe Bryant was assassinated by the Quins.
Come here, Nazi, you're going to Guantanamo.
Oh my gosh, what did I do? Am I getting canceled?
The Democrats don't like you, they're gonna cancel you.
It documents his semi-estranged family and their attempt to pull him out of the rabbit hole.
Are you selling baby parts, yes or no?
Don't tread on me. Don't even think about it.
I don't want to say too much, but it's a good movie. If you guys want to watch it, it would mean a lot. www.dearkellyfilm.com. It's a
Can you explain the Trump bribe thing? He can't keep gifts that are worth more than $400. Why are people mad? I don't know. So I heard something about him. It could go to the presidential library and he could keep it. I don't know how that works. I do think it's very weird to accept a gift like that. I don't know why. Like the idea, I guess, of the United States president flying around on a jet gifted by another country. It just intuitively feels not good to me, but maybe I can't justify that. I don't know.
available for rent and buy. You can rent it.
How do you feel about the level of pushback Andrew does in his videos? For what he does, which is just kind of like chatting with people and getting perspectives, like he definitely takes on more the role of like, how would you say this? Like, sometimes you have people who are just kind of like asking questions, like they're just there to get a perspective. And then you have people who definitely have like a more pointed goal. I wouldn't say like, so like she definitely had a idea in mind, a thesis in mind for this. It wasn't just like follow the camera and see what happens. Like she came in here with the idea that there's probably bad shit going on, and the goal was to kind of expose that. Would you say this is like more of like an investigative journalist and he's more just like I don't know what you would say, but yeah, I think that for what he does, I think it's fine. Louis Theroux calls it radical listening. Okay. I feel like Louis Theroux has like a soft agenda sometimes, but for the most part, I think he also hears people out quite a bit as well, yeah. Andrew definitely has a soft agenda, but I think that he, Andrew's probably a little bit more agendized than now he is. He did like a very hard left pivot. I think his stuff is still entertaining, but since he came back, he did a very hard left pivot. He bases his style heavily on Louis Theroux, okay. Shoe Knight says he does dabs, weed, acid, mushrooms, coke, purple drank, nitrous, molly, and ecstasy. All right. All at the same time, or? Oh, we might do this. Fuck it. How do you feel about that conversation with XQC last night? I don't know. I could have been gentler a little bit, maybe. I don't know. It's very, 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 very frustrating to deal with people who... I wish that there was just like an easy way to make somebody... I guess in a way, I'm just kind of asking for a little bit of empathy. Like, if you're going to sit here and throw up 50 trillion different excuses for why a guy double tapping a Nazi salute wasn't actually that, fine. I'll grant that. But at the very least, I need you to understand why people on our side might be a little bit upset when you guys accuse us of the most insane conspiracies ever on the lightest possible evidence ever. That it can't be both. It's just not... Human mind can't happen. That just can't happen. Like, that's going to lead to so much hatred. Like, you can't be that way. Where can I watch this convo? I think it was last night. Does he have VODs open? Like, the difference in charitability is just unbelievable.
He hates his party. It's this. And started this salute was him just openly admitting that he's a white supremacist. Some people believe.
I'm sorry to tell you, you've ingested too much soy. You've become libtarded so much your eyes don't work anymore. What a backwards fucking thing to say.
Well, we can all agree on
the N-word. I don't think it's bad to sing it. Physics.
Elon Musk did.
Does that?
That's a found thing.
But do you think it's like quite different, or
being replicated at at Nazi rallies, because that's not what it is.
About
Bro, out of all, I don't give a shit. What did Disney want? What does he want? Oh my god, bro.
Well, that's
oh my
like
god,
1
bro.
minute of this.
I can't, man. Bro, out of all people, but you make me go into Disney call. Bro, what do you want, man?
Whoa, hey, hello?
Yeah, I'm at work right now. What's up?
Oh, hi. Okay, wait. I just had one quick.
Here comes. Go ahead.
Question. Just a quick easy question, okay? Okay. It was about the when he did the I love you sign with his hand really aggressively.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it's kind of weird that in all the time this has been argued about, that there wasn't a single person who could find a single example of anybody ever doing this that wasn't doing it in a Nazi rally ever?
Oh, is it someone done?
Do you think it's a little bit weird that in all the people that spoke about this, and as dramatic as all this was, that nobody could find a single example of somebody doing this who wasn't at a Nazi rally?
Well, I mean, well, the whole basis of my argument is that's not what that looks like or meant to look like. So, at the foundational level, my argument is that isn't being replicated at Nazi rallies, because that's not what it is. Does that make sense? It's more of a foundational argument, not that.
Sure, that could be it. Okay, I'm just curious because I don't know, maybe your chat might say it differently. Okay, because I'm Trump derangement syndrome. So like, if you look at those two things, does that look similar at all, or do you think it's like quite different? Or
I got you. Hold on. You're really gonna have me fucking put some fucking images like that on my thing? Gee whiz. Yeah. Like I said, again, it'll sound like I'm reaching at straws, right? Or like kind of grasping or whatever. But the way that I see it, right, is that if you get, it's more of an overlap, right? The guys do it. Let's say somebody, let's say like the main guy. Let's say, okay, I don't dabble into these wording, okay, but listen. The main guy doing it at his best, right? And then some random guy doing it as a whatever, right? The guy doing it at the worst, right? Like it's not gonna be perfect in motion what it looks like, right? There will be some overlap with other motions that people do. Does that make sense? You want me to draw it? So it's hard to articulate, but you want me to kind of like draw it? Like it's kind of like if you don't do the motion the way that it was done, like let's say on the left, right? That's what it's meant to look like, right? And then you showed me the other one. The guy's doing it like it's a little bit like sloppy or a little bit different. It is bound to have some similarities. Somebody.
Okay. Hasan might be crashing out.
I know that.
What does he know?
God damn. This was partially the reason why. This was partially the reason why I made this calculated decision, because I wanted to see what their inquiries were going to look like. I had heard from TikTok stories of American citizens getting apprehended at the border, getting detained at the border.
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Oh, no.
And I had a different red line than some other people do. My red line was unlawful search and seizure. But up until that point, I was going to entertain the inquiry so that I could engage in some sort of fact-finding mission. And I actually got TikTok as your source of news. No, you fucking moron. I'm the source of news in this situation. That's what I'm saying. I had heard firsthand accounts from people, not just on TikTok, but immigration attorneys being apprehended at the border, for example, on NBC and numerous other news outlets that had verified reports. So when this situation came, when I was in the similar situation, I was the one who was like, okay, I'm going to see what this is about.
Okay.
Anyway, let's continue.
He said in the past, his Twitch ban some things that were frankly ridiculous, and other things that maybe weren't ridiculous but are scary for an administration to be looking for in terms of what your political beliefs are. Your political beliefs shouldn't matter in terms of you being a United States citizen and you make...
I got into an argument with a real life friend yesterday over this. If you, let's say that I come back from the border, okay? I fly into the US and I'm like, I got grilled. I got fucking grilled when I was in immigration. And they were like, oh, what did they grill you on? So they asked me if I was bisexual, and then they asked me if I'd ever been to an LGBT parade before. If I present that like that, it sounds like, wait, what the fuck? Are they trying to like keep gay people out of the country? Are they trying to keep people who have been at pride parades or pride events like out of the country? Are they like selecting, like, it sounds fucked up. But if I come through immigration and I get pulled over for screening or whatever, and they're asking me like, hey, so what are you here for? And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm here to celebrate, you know, Stonewall riot anniversary, or I don't know, or some LGBT event. They're like, oh, what, you know, are you gay? Are you whatever? I'm like, oh, you know, yeah, I'm bi. I've been doing this for, you know, these events for a while. It's like, oh, have you been to these events before? Like, they're going to ask you questions about whatever it is you say you're here to do. If you say you're visiting family, they're going to ask you about your family. If you say you're visiting a relationship partner, they're going to ask you about your relationship partner. If you say you're here for some event, they're going to ask you about your events. So if you come in and you say your job is politics, and you talk about your politics, they're going to ask you about things related to politics. That's just how it goes. It doesn't mean that if you would have said, fuck, I didn't mean to send that to the ship. It doesn't mean that if you say like, oh my God, I told them that I hated Trump, that they're going to kick you out of the country, that you're not going to be allowed to come to the country. They're just going to ask you questions about whatever you say your job is. That's it.
Bro, we don't have to give them a sacrificial lamb to know it's fascism. I also disagree with you on this. Then why don't I just leave the United States of America and escape and like keep streaming from a different country? This is something that a lot of people are suggesting in a very parasocial way as well. And it's like, no, there are going to be moments where I am presented with a threatening situation, and I think that it is appropriate for me to at least have some fucking skin in the game.
Oh my God, bro!
I do have.
You had global entry flying back from Europe. You do not have skin in the game. Oh my God, he's actually such a fucking loser, bro. Like, we flew into fucking Israel with a Lebanese citizen. Where I don't know if he has a Lebanese citizenship, but his name is am I allowed to say his first name? He says his name. Like, the guy's name is Lebanese, and we were fine. Come on, give me a fucking break, dude. He's such a baby.
And I'll continue to report on things that happen to me as well.
Oh my God, kill me,
as
dude.
I've said over and over again, I am not a journalist. I'm a political commentator. I'm not an activist. I'm a political commentator. I'm an entertainer. But there are unique moments in my career where I do engage in some journalism, where I make some news, right? And my personal experience in that regard played a role here.
That's established law, and that has been established law. We know that this administration doesn't care about any of that stuff and doesn't care about what the law is in actuality. All of us collectively need to be smart about how we are articulating certain things online, not to be silent, to be perfectly clear before the do not comply in advance heroes in the comments go absolutely insane. And really, wow, you are such heroes down there. I'm saying let's maybe try not to get black bagged and thrown in federal prison, because actually you're not helpful to anybody if you're there. Okay. It's important to remember that posting is not activism, right? So you have to be smart about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and you have to protect yourself and your communities. You also need to put pressure on your elected officials to actually stand up about these things. Are most electeds?
When you're a citizen coming back to the U.S., shouldn't they be asking about what you were doing out of the country? Why ask about Hamas when he was in France? Because Hasan volunteered the information that he was interviewing Houthis and shit. What do you mean? That's why he literally said it. And keep in mind, Hasan is giving you the most favorable version of the accounts because he's the one telling it, right? But Hasan himself said, yeah, I started telling them that I interviewed this guy who was in the Houthis and I support blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, no shit.
going to do it. And you need to be smart and not put stupid things in writing, honestly. Doesn't mean you can't express your political opinion. You should be expressing your political opinion. I just wrote a piece. I've written pieces about Luigi Mangione. I've written pieces about not feeling bad for police officers that got killed. You can still express yourself. You just need to be smart about the way you do that.
So, there is, there's a lot of commentary, a lot of back and forth happening on this stuff, and there's been a lot of news coverage on it as well. And virtually every single outlet has reached out at this point to get a
because they're hungry
to
for
get
this
my
story.
Insight into what took place. I
fucking hate this guy so much. God, he's so fucking evil, dude. Wasting everybody's time on everything. Nobody cares about you, little bro. Nobody is targeting you at a fucking airport. Like, oh my God, they intimidated him so much. How did they intimidate you? They gave you said it yourself, you had an Iraqi fucking border guard guy, but apparently he knew everything about you. But apparently, because he was from Iraq, he knew the right last name, so he wasn't suspicious of you. But apparently they were targeting you to try to put the fear of the US government in you, but they didn't actually do anything besides detain you for an hour. But you're not actually scared at all, but you are actually so scared that now you're not gonna go to Cuba. But like nothing about this story makes sense. He's just attention whoring. I don't care. Don't care about this. Sorry, watch this real quick.
Welcome to Raging Moderates. I'm Scott Galloway. Jessica is jet-setting across Europe this week, which I think is awfully nervy given she's a new employee. Our vacation policy is you don't take vacation the first couple of years here at a Galloway-sponsored corporation. But anyways, she has decided to head to Europe, where I think she's in Italy or something like that. But our loss is our gain. On with us is literally our favorite side piece. The Bulwark's own Tim Miller. Tim is literally our favorite three and threesome. We have become the same person or the same podcast, Tim. If I'm on something, you're on it before. You're on with Jess a lot. Anyways, it's great to have you, Tim. How are you?
I love being a third, so I really appreciate it. It spices things up, and we are becoming the same person. I had your sidekick, Ed, on my Gen Z podcast like last week. I love Ed. I'm thinking about kicking my co-host, Cameron Kasky, off and replacing him with Ed. So if you have any problems with him, if he's taking too much vacation, I might poach him.
Yeah, he's how old is I watched that. How old is your young guy? I love how
24.
He's 24.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Ed is 26.
Yeah, like the fact that Hasan uses the term detention center even is like, it's fucking gross. Like why? Like, oh God, kill me.
Yeah, but you're a kid too. I think it's more adorable because I have the grandfather thing. You're just like the big brother.
Yeah, little big brother vibe. Got to keep making them behave.
There you go. And where are you in Nolans today? Where are you?
I'm in New Orleans. Yeah, I was in New York over the weekend. Back in New Orleans. I'm here for a couple weeks. And then we got a live show in Chicago and Nashville. If any Raging Moderates listeners want to come, May 27th and 28th. Look at me. I'm just plugging, baby.
I'm curious. Tell me a little bit about the live shows. How many people do you get? What's the business model? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah. I just lied. It's May 28th and 29th. 28th in Chicago, 29th in Nashville. I love them. We love them. We are getting, I think, almost 1,000 people in Chicago and like closer to 400 in Nashville. Kind of a small, big market, small market thing.
Wow.
And we haven't quite figured out on the business, Scott Brain. We haven't really quite figured out how to monetize them in a way that is that useful to the bottom line. But I think it's still useful because it's cool for the community. Yeah. People love it. They like, especially in kind of our world, people love when I see people on the street, I'm sure you get this too. It's just like, I just like listening to you because I feel like I'm going insane and it makes me feel sane to listen. And so then it makes you feel even more sane when you're around other sane people. You can kind of vent too about the craziness of the world.
True.
So I think it's good for the community side of things. I like being out with the people. I feel a little bit disconnected sometimes when I'm up here in my hole in New Orleans. I can't leave my little studio hole. And so it's nice to have human contact. So one of my colleague, Jonathan Last, doesn't like human contact. So it's not a plus for him, but it is a plus for me. So like kind of invigorating. So I dig it. I mean, I think that, we only do maybe 6 a year, 7 a year. So it's, it'd become a burden if we were doing a real tour, like a rock and roll tour.
Yeah, I've always said that it's really a shame that these LLMs and AI is crawling the digital world and not crawling the real world, because I find online people not so nice, but people out in the wild couldn't be more lovely.
Totally. Well, it's a lot because people are cowards, and so there are some people that you see in public that are lovely, that are nuts online. So some of it is that, and others of it is just like online. Draws in like the people who want to be engaged for the most part, present company excluded, are like, I think it draws people in with mental illness. I don't know. I just like for example, I just think back to something like after the Biden debate when I was super critical of him because it was just obvious. Like the commenters on my social media and on the blog were really mad at me, like the lefty commenters.
Don't you understand the assignment? I got a lot of that too.
Yeah, but then out in the real world or on my email or text message and private communications, everybody was like, thank God you're saying this. I mean, this is crazy. Like that was insane. I couldn't even watch it. It was so painful to watch, right? And that's just one example. There are a million examples of this. So I do think that social media kind of draws in the most mentally ill people to be the most active. Well, maybe, I don't know. I maybe need to reflect on that myself, possibly.
But also I think that just being alone makes you more mentally ill. It makes you more isolated and makes you less empathetic and more angry. And I think those are the people who have a disproportionate share or voice online because, quite frankly, they're home and they've got not a lot else to do. I think a lot of what ails us is social isolation and the fact that we don't recognize we're mammals. And you put an orc on a tank alone, it literally goes crazy. And a Cape buffalo gets excommunicated from the herd, it usually goes crazy or gets.
Okay, question. Those jobs where people like go out to sea? Would you say out to sea? When people have like those oil rig jobs, those seem like kind of cool. Am I crazy? Are they? They seem like cool setups. Hold on, we need to watch. We're gonna watch one of these videos later. Oil rig tour. These things are huge. I didn't like. If I played a video game, I would assume that these structures were not real. These are crazy.
Gets eaten and dies. Anyways, with that.
Totally agree with that. I could not be more human contact. Just pro human contact. It's just another thing that we're aligned on.
Good. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing the Qataris may gift Trump a luxury jet. Tell me that thing probably doesn't look like an Iraqi whorehouse inside. What do you think the decor looks like inside?
Yeah, I mean, it probably looks like the Uday and Qusay suite in the palace for sure. Look, there's so much horrifying about the story, but the funny part of it is, I guess it was parked at the West Palm Beach FBO in February, and Trump was like, "I want to go check that out," and it's just he's like immediately drawn to the opulence of the Qatari, whorehouse in the sky, and that I guess is what started us down this path to this bribe coming through, and that is just very Trumpy, very Trumpy origin story. But I mean, it's really, obviously it's just bad on the corruption front, like the idea that our country should be taking $400 million bribe for another country that we have a complicated geopolitical relationship with is insane. Simultaneously to that, if the corruption of the government part isn't bad enough, Eric Trump signed a deal for like a golf course in Qatar for I think $5 billion. So there's a private corruption on top of the public corruption that is happening with Qatar, and it's particularly.
One of my buddies was an oil rig engineer. He did 6 months on, 6 months off. He hated it. Oh, well, damn. Yeah, they're long jobs. You're gone for months at a time on these things, right?
Jarring. I think it'll be interesting to see what the kind of pro-Israel right folks say about this. Like Qatar was funding Hamas and was funding the campus protests. So in addition to just the corruption part, there's the hypocrisy of we are currently taking away the green cards and jailing people who participated in the campus protests at the same time as we're taking an Air Force One bribe from.
Why does it feel okay? This is a piece of history that I don't know anything about. I just know what they do, but I don't know why they do it. Why does it feel like, or why does Qatar seem to have such a different vested geopolitical interest than Saudi Arabia? Is there a reason why? Like it feels like Saudi Arabia is very much like we like the U.S. and Israel's kind of cool because fuck Iran and all that. And then it feels like Qatar is like, actually Iran's not that bad, and fuck the U.S. But also Saudi's kind of like our big bro. What's going on there? What's a different royal family? It feels like the allegiances are far different, though. Saudi Arabia denounced them. Yeah, I just don't know why. I don't know where that comes from.
Country that was funding the same protests, and the whole thing is just preposterous.
Yeah, I have a chat group or a text group with some of my friends from the fraternity at UCLA, and the majority of them are Jewish, and a lot of them voted for Trump. I think most of them voted for Trump because, quite frankly, he's seen as viewed as more resolute on Israel.
Yeah.
And I said, be clear. This guy likes Jews the way that hardcore evangelicals like Jews. I mean, if you kind of go one layer deeper, their plan for us is not all that great. It's all about the rapture when Jesus comes back, and then they decide to kill most of us.
Based.
And the fact that essentially we have the Qataris giving the president a $400 million plane and sort of turning this into kind of, the ultimate frequent flyer program.
Based.
I mean, first off, it's embarrassing that America needs to take a plane manufactured in the U.S. from the Qatari government. That's where we are.
Cringe.
But also the notion that you have the primary sponsor of Hamas and the political mouthpiece, and you have a country that has given about $8 billion of the $14 billion we have received from foreign governments to sponsor quote unquote Middle Eastern studies departments. I mean, just this Jews have to get past the fact that this notion that the president is going after universities because of anti-Semitism is just fucking ridiculous. It has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It's him attacking progressive institutions and trying to implement thought leadership. That if he really cared about anti-Semitism, he wouldn't be taking $400 million bribes from the primary sponsor of a group that murdered 1,200 Jews. And I'm like, you guys don't see this? You don't see the inconsistency here, and that this isn't about, we have totally become, at this point, pay for play. The question I would put forward to you.
Do they see it?
I do think you have to be really careful. I know it's tempting to group Jews together, but there are like different groups of, there are different groups of Jewish people. Like Jews from Israel are going to view Trump probably quite a bit differently than Jews from the United States, who tend to be more progressive, left-leaning. But Jews in the United States that are major simps for Israel, not just Jews who are like, oh, I think Israel should exist, but major simps for Israel are probably going to align more closely with like the ultra-Zionist Jews than the than like the ordinary progressive-y type Jews.
Has the text chain fired up since last night?
What they see is they see that it's problematic. What they see more, Tim is one of the guys in our group who's this wonderful high integrity guy, has this great small business that does specialty products. You know those products, you go to a conference and you see those banners and the mugs and the water bottle with logos. He has that kind of business, and he does, it's a great business, $50 million, good living for 200 or 300 people, he's put kids through college on it, it's a family business. And his business is basically shut down overnight because of the ridiculous, sclerotic, reckless approach to negotiating, where we're negotiating against ourselves and both sides are losing around China. And my friends are very, I don't want to say economically focused. Is that fair? I'd say they're more focused on America as a platform for prosperity. I think they're like most voters. They think about who's going to put more money in my pocket. They think that essentially Washington is feckless and useless.
A lot of Jews here in Israel like Trump, but a fair amount of us expected the backstab. What is the backstab? Oh, you guys think it's a backstab because Trump went to Qatar and accepted or Qatar or whatever and accepted a jet? Trump is so unpredictable. Who the fuck knows what he'll do? I mean, it would be smart for Bibi not to turn his back on him. Trump can do anything. Like, the thing is that Trump is retarded enough. Trump is even retarded enough to do something good for the Palestinians, and it's actually bad. Like, everybody's worried, or I saw some people were worried on the Israeli side, and some people seem to be happy on the Palestinian side about, like, Trump recognizing a Palestinian state. Like, there is a world where Trump recognizes a Palestinian state, and it's the best thing in the world for Israel and the worst thing in the world for Palestinians. And it would be something akin to Trump saying, I'm recognizing a Palestinian state in Gaza, and that will be their state. And there you go, boom. And Israel can do whatever they want in the West Bank. I think Israel would be ecstatic with that. Like, oh, look, they do have their own city. Here you go. We'll even lift the fucking blockade, maybe. Right? Go live there. Go. Leave. Go. I don't know. It's a backstab because he abandoned them with the Houthis and completely cucked them with Iran. Has he cucked them with Iran? I thought didn't Trump verbalize a commitment to bombing Iran if they actually were getting nuclear weapons? I don't know about the Houthi thing. The U.S. goes back and forth on that all the time. Jesus. He's just an actual fucking retard. It's impossible to know what his position is on anything.
Listen around social issues, and they're focused on who they think is better for the economy. And to have kind of one of us have our, one of our close friends' business basically just like turned off like it was a tap, and threatened, a multi-generational business. I think that hits hard. I think that hits them at home.
He went behind Netanyahu's back to reopen negotiations on the nuclear deal. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that, if they did. But who knows if anything will even come of that. He also went behind Netanyahu's back. Remember, he did this as well with Hamas, I think, because I think Israel had said that they didn't want any direct talks with Hamas, and I think Trump just sent an envoy to go negotiate with them. But I don't even know if Trump knows what he's doing, or if he has any idea if he even knows that's a bad thing to do. I don't know.
The question I would have for you is, I want to move beyond the part of the program where we're screaming into TikTok about the corruption here and the obvious fraud or whatever you want to call it. Do you think
I have 7 more minutes of TikTok bits, though. But that's fine. We can move on.
You ready for more indignance?
It's your show.
But I guess I want to move to the part of the program.
I hear this sound constantly. Am I going crazy? What are you talking about? Why do I hear your iPhone Siri or whatever sound on every stream multiple times a day? You're either having a schizophrenic moment or you've got something going on your computer, my dude.
How do the Democrats become the party of not fucking around?
Yeah, that recent hostage that got released was supposed to be the last American hostage too, and they didn't go through Israel at all for that or whatever. So
it's your show.
But I guess I want to move to the part of the program where how do the Democrats become the party of not fucking around? And this is my idea. I'm curious what you think. That we should draft legislation, the Foreign Enemies Act, Part 2.0, that says if you're operating black sites in your country, El Salvador, if you're trying to bribe our public officials, Qatar, even if the president at that moment agrees with it, it doesn't mean you're not guilty of a crime or a violation of the Monuments Act or whatever. And in 3 years and 9 months, we are going to implement significant economic sanctions and rethink our geopolitical relationship with you. And also,
wait, never mind. Lots of people are saying hearing it. Maybe it might be one of the factorial sounds then. Is it that? I don't know.
Clear. In America, the White House and the branches of government or Congress tends to turn over. I don't think there's any shaming the Trump administration and his acolytes. So I'm about how do we start sending a chill down the backbone of some of these foreign governments, and also some of the lower level people of these organizations that say, if you're illegally incarcerating people, whether the president or whether the current head of ICE says that is okay, it doesn't mean you're not committing a crime. I'm trying to figure out how we, quite frankly, move from the strongly worded letter to being a little bit more aggressive. Any ideas or thoughts?
I do. I have a couple thoughts on that. I was literally just talking to Bill Crystal about just on the Qatari plane thing. Again, this is more of a strongly worded letter side of things, and I have additional thoughts on top of it. But I do think just at minimum, somebody in the House among the Democrats should try to force through a privilege resolution creating a vote on the new Air Force One. Like make the Republicans actually vote to codify this. Like you have a majority, right? Just say, look, if you guys want to take a $400 million bribe from the funder of Hamas, then put your money where your mouth is and vote for it. Because we're already seeing everybody from Ari Fleischer, who was Bush's spokesperson, who's been pro-Trump, to Laura Loomer, the insane MAGA conspiracy theorist, to the Free Press, which has been kind of like anti-Trump, to Bari Weiss outfit. Like all of them are out this morning criticizing the Qatar plane thing today. So I would at least force these Republicans to actually have to codify it. That's one. The thing I liked about your El Salvador idea, legal is not my background, so I don't have a lot of deep thoughts on how you can scare people into feeling like they might go to jail, though I like where your head's at on that. Economically, though, I think it would make sense for Democratic leaders either in or out of government right now to be talking with the EU and Carney and the guy just got reelected in Australia, isolating El Salvador and saying that when we come back in charge, we'll isolate El Salvador too. Like we will turn you into Nicaragua or Venezuela if you want to. Like if you want to be completely isolated from the world community, I know you're very happy about this deal you've done with Donald Trump and his crime family, but they're not going to be around forever. And if you want the El Salvador economy to look like the North Korea, Nicaragua, or Venezuela economy, then keep going down this path of having, of violating, the Human Rights, Council and what they've already signed and agreed to. Like you cannot be part of the small L liberal world of nations if you are going to put somebody in a hole in a torture camp and not give them access to a lawyer. Like that's just that's a no-go. And we'll stop doing trade with you, and we'll stop doing tourism with you. And I mean, I think that would be. I think that it would be hard to actually impact the El Salvador economy in a big way without the U.S. being involved, but you could start to lay the groundwork down for it in a way that might make Bukele start to think twice.
Yeah, I think we've got to say to these folks, look, the president does not provide blanket immunity from economic sanctions or even criminality. Just to say, look, you're right. Well, you're good for 3 years, 8 months, and 2 weeks, but after that, be clear. If the Democrats get control back, which there's always a good chance at some point they will, it's going to be really ugly for you because I think we're focused on. I think we've got to go after the infrastructure and the enablers and the co-conspirators at this point.
This is why it's so important, though, and I want to say it's like a flaw in our system. Maybe it's not fair to call it a flaw in our system, but like between election seasons, there is no like real party leader. We don't really have anybody that kind of represents the party. So there is nobody to like if the rest of the world is looking into the United States, I think what the rest of the world wants to see is there a resistance? Is there a strong faction of Americans that don't stand for what your current leader stands that we can rely on if they get in government again? And you just don't really see that just because of the nature, I think, of how our election cycles work,
Opposed to, because it's just pretty clear we're not going to shame him or our current branches of government who have been weaponized and politicized. That's just not an effective strategy. So let's move on to the tariffs here. Yeah. All right. So back in Washington, Fed Reserve Chair Chairman Powell warned that Trump's escalating trade war could drive the U.S. towards stagflation. It's probably a word you don't know because you're too young. You haven't had it since the 70s.
I read about it in history.
You read about it?
Well, I mean, as a Reagan fan, as in high school Republicans, people talked about, how he ran against stagflation. So I'm familiar with it in that context.
So it's this toxic mix of rising prices and rising unemployment where basically interest rates go up and the economy slows down. And it's sort of stagflation is sort of a step or a bridge to a depression. But on Thursday, Trump announced a new...
It's a flaw of the system, but you could do it if you reorganize the way the party works, maybe. I think there's two issues. One is the position between Democrat and Republican right now is probably more extreme maybe than it ever has been in all of U.S. history. The positions maybe are even more different than they were preceding the Civil War. That might be the case. It's just for a variety of reasons we just don't want to kill each other right now over it. So there's that issue, and then there's also this weird issue of I feel like there is just such a gap in the media on the left between what the popular figures advocate for and where the party is. And that same gap does not exist on the right. And it just makes it so hard I just think it makes it very challenging for the Democratic Party to find its bearings. Like, what is the party? Is the party, well, if you look at the media, it seems like the party must be AOC and Bernie Sanders because they get the huge rallies. Everybody seems to be excited online for them. So maybe this is like where the soul of the party is. But then you look electorally and it's like, okay, wait, that's not where the party is at all. This is not the case. And then you look on the right and it's like Donald Trump will say a thing that a factory worker in Arkansas will know the talking points for like 5 minutes later because it's from the top down resonating with every single Republican, pundit, commentator, political figure, politician, podcaster, Twitter account, Russian bot, like every single person. And it's like, there's just such an incongruency on the left between our messaging and the politics But on the right, all of their entertainment and messaging and politics, where I'm saying politics as acquiring political power, they seem to be in perfect alignment. We have to bring that alignment together. We have to bring things into alignment. Everything is doomed without that, I think.
Sort of stagflation is sort of a step or a bridge to a depression. But on Thursday, Trump announced a new trade framework with the UK that lowers tariffs, but only on luxury cars, including Rolls-Royce and Bentley. Well, thank God. Toys, including
and plane engines, I think, got thrown in there too.
Right?
I think Rolls-Royce has given us some plane engines too.
Toys, including Barbie and Hot Wheels, will face a % tariff. Then over the weekend, there was a surprise detour. The U.S. and China agreed to a 90-day truce, temporarily rolling back some of the steep tariffs that had been hammering both economies. By May 14th, the U.S. will slash its tariff on Chinese goods from 145 to 30%, while China will lower its own tariffs on American products from 125% to just 10%. The move helped calm global markets, but it's anyone's guess if the pause will hold. They now have 90 days to make a deal. What do you think will come out of this? What's your impression of what's happened as of this morning, Tim?
I mean, I think for starters, like obviously Trump blinked and had very serious concerns about the economy. I mean, if you just look at the broad contours of this, so 30% tariff now on China is 20 percentage points higher than it was under Biden, right? So it was at 10 and now it's up to 30. And so we've added a 20% tax on consumers who consume Chinese goods in exchange for nothing, right? In exchange for nothing. I mean, the Chinese didn't even, there was some, I guess, promises around fentanyl or something, but they didn't. In the past, in the first Trump term when they did the tariffs to China, there was also a deal where they were buying our soybeans, and there are other and maybe that'll come over the next 90 days. I don't know, but as of right now, we still have increased. We still put a 20% essentially sales tax increase on Americans, for nothing, just so that Donnie could feel tough for a little bit. How does it go from here? I think that. I'd be interested in your take on, I noticed the markets are up quite a bit today. I just generally think, it's maybe my pessimistic nature, that the markets and business leaders have been a little bit too sanguine about kind of where we're heading. I think that this is going to be relatively ugly.
How can we win over the people on the extreme left? Are they even worth the effort? No, you should not be trying to appeal to these people. They do not share your values. These are not your people. You don't try to appeal to them. You just let them do their thing and then you do your thing. They're not relevant though. They're not even really your competition. They don't have a desire to secure political power. They're not trying to elect candidates or run people on any reasonable level or do things to organize or whatever. They're young. A lot of them are, which is fine. They can do that, but just don't get mind fucked into thinking that these are the people you have to appeal to. It's just such a bad mindset to be on.
This move away from a total trade embargo on China has walked us away from the brink of a worst case scenario economically, at least temporarily. But even still, and if you would have went to any of these people in October and said, hey, I'm from May 2025, and here's what the economic outlook's going to look like then. We're going to have a 10% across the board tariff on everybody, 30% on China increased. The tax bill that you guys were counting on is going to be floundering in Congress, and we'll see what happens with that. But we haven't really made any meaningful progress of it yet on May. And GDP growth will be down to 0. I feel like everybody would think that was I feel like business people outside of politics would say that that's almost a worst case imaginable scenario. And that's where we are now, but people are kind of spinning it as a positive because it ends up being better than what the worst case scenario was that we were staring down the pike of had they kept the 145% in. So I don't know. What do you make of that?
So he's pulled the knife out of the back sort of halfway. That's the good news. The bad news is the injury is going to take, I think, decades to heal, because even worse than the tariffs themselves, which obviously increase consumer prices and slow the economy, I think the most lasting damage here is that we have now become the land or the economy of toxic uncertainty. And that is, people don't even know how to plan it.
The far left exists as a soft check for the center left to some degree to stop them becoming indistinguishable from the center right. No, but they shouldn't, because you should only be able to check people with things that are politically relevant. That's it. You shouldn't be able to check people with things that aren't politically relevant. If somebody comes out with an extremist movement of young children who become the pro-child rape party, I don't need them to check my party, right? I notice that your party is aggressively anti-child rape, and I think they should just take that back a little bit and make compromises with us. Now, if the aggressive pro-child rape party started to get candidates elected, okay, well, maybe something has to be looked at. But if they have no political power, then no, you don't compromise with them. People did not compromise on the right with I can't even think of politically irrelevant far-right movements. Like the Tea Party got people elected. They had the Freedom Caucus. They were disruptive. They were doing things in the House to actually fuck with votes and shit. Like the Freedom Caucus was a real thing, and they were doing stuff. These are the people that you negotiate with. You don't negotiate with or capitulate to or make concessions to people that have no political power. Because if they have no political power, what that means is there's nobody in the country that actually supports them in a political manner. Just people on YouTube.
And their businesses. And
yeah, nobody on the right is making concessions to never-Trumpers because the never-Trumpers have no political power. They're gone. They're gone immediately. Kicked out of the party and gone forever. Nobody even knows anything about them.
Or the economy of toxic uncertainty. And that is, people don't even know how to plan their businesses. And The U.S. S&P trades at a price earnings multiple of around 26, meaning for every dollar of profits that our great American companies generate, the world rewards us with $26 in value, which flows right into not only the pockets of shareholders, but employees. It lowers interest rates. We can borrow money at a much lower rate. The U.S. dollar is kind of the reserve currency because everybody wants to buy American stocks. So
wait, what?
Us with $26 in value, which flows for every dollar of profits that our great American companies generate. The world rewards us with $26 in value, which flows right into not only the pockets of shareholders, but employees. It lowers interest rates. We can borrow money at a much lower rate. The U.S. dollar is kind of the reserve currency because everybody wants to buy American stocks. So there's greater demand for dollars.
Oh. He's saying greater EPS and everything is helping American employees. I would say not really, but I guess in a very, very, very roundabout way. It helps everybody, I guess. But I don't think Scott's dumb enough to do like weird trickle down shit. So I'm assuming that's probably what it meant.
And the U.S. being the reserve currency globally literally lowers on average the interest rate that you pay across your student loans, your mortgages, and your car loans somewhere between 0.5% and 1%. So that's just literally hundreds of billions of dollars in cost savings that the Americans enjoy because of the fact that our markets trade at a higher multiple.
What is a caucus? I'm going to be honest, since I got for real into politics, I haven't actually studied or looked up caucuses or whatever. I'm going to give you what I think they are, but maybe I'm totally wrong. I think a caucus is basically just a collection of people that are all in a chamber of government, so in the House or the Senate. I think they're generally in the House, right? Are there caucuses in the Senate? There must be. But it's like a group of 10, 20 people or whatever, or some number of people who are like, hey, we all tend to vote together on these issues. That'll be like a caucus. So like there's a progressive caucus in the House, but it's not like super ultra uber progressive. It's like just like I think far left social people, but not, there's like it's a ton of people in that caucus, right? Or there used to be like the Congressional Black Caucus or the Tea Party, or the Freedom Caucus was a caucus. It's just like a group of people. The Gang of Eight could maybe arguably was a small caucus, I think. It's just a group of people who are all like, hey, we should we all vote together on like certain issues. I think basically like an informal agreement to do it, kind of. I think.
Literally hundreds of billions of dollars in.
They get allotted resources if they are officially recognized. What do you mean by that? Allotted resources. I don't know what that means.
Just in your car loans, somewhere between 0.5% and 1%. So that's just literally hundreds of billions of dollars in cost savings that the Americans enjoy because of the fact that our markets trade at a higher multiple on earnings. Now, why do they trade at a higher multiple? A lot of reasons. We're more risk aggressive. Our technology is better. We have more
staff and researchers.
Zeitgeist or a culture of entrepreneurship. We have great universities, great intellectual property. But we also have rule of law and consistency. We're seen as good trading partners. We're seen as people we can count on. We're seen as a place where there isn't going to be a ton of corruption where you come and say, open a bunch of restaurants, and then the government shows up one day and says, sorry, we now own them. And that happens in other countries around the world. Rule of law and consistency have been thrown out the window in just 110 days. And you're starting to see a reduction in the price earnings multiple. And I believe over the next several years, we're going to see a re-rating down of our price earnings multiple, which effectively increases the costs on all American businesses and consumers. Because, and the market has sort of said this to a certain extent, the market has said, we don't really know what this guy's going to do and we don't trust him. 145% tariff. I mean, this is what a bad negotiator is. The first thing we need to do is dispel the myth that this guy's a good business person. He would be wealthier if he'd taken his massive inheritance and invested it in index funds. His business career includes a trail of bankruptcies and unpaid subcontractors. He is an outstanding, to be fair, he's an outstanding reality talk show host, made several $100 million hosting and envisioning a reality talk show. As a business person, he's not very good. And in terms of negotiating, he's negotiating himself at this point. He put on 145% tariff, and then a few days later, without any counter from the Chinese, other than this is unacceptable and we're not even going to talk, he said they're unsustainable. It's like, well, boss, you're the one that did it. So to go to 145 and then to go down to 30, and effectively what you have is the Chinese are divesting away. This will keep the factories sort of humming in China. This will basically loosen up or cancel the trade embargo for the time being. But also in negotiation, you have to understand your leverage and the amount of leverage you have. And what is typical of America and Donald Trump, we're under the...
Dean is scared of destiny. Listen, if Dean wants to chat publicly about anything, I'm okay to do it. I said this before, obviously my community had a very harsh response, probably somewhat informed by my coverage or whatever, which is fair. But listen, I'm not here to scream or shout or tear anybody down. Okay. I just feel like there are better ways that they can handle and deal with dealing with pushback. It's a whole ass conversation.
The impression we're much more powerful than we are. People think of us as, we're the only customer at the taco stand here, and that without us, they go out of business. We're the third largest trading partner. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations and the EU are bigger trading partners with China. China has been divesting away from us, and I think this is good for them. They get to continue to sell not as many products, but still not the shock that this trade embargo was going to implement on them. At the same time, they will slowly but surely continue to divest away from us. And that is what the whole world is doing, Tim. The whole world is rerouting their supply chain around the United States, not even because of tariffs, but because they don't know how to plan their business with us, because of this toxic uncertainty. And I think these that resupplying or that rerouting of the supply chain will take years, if not decades, to reheal. And I do think the Americans have taken for granted, the American public, of just how inexpensive our goods are because of the supply chain that runs through the U.S. of every major economy, because they trust us and think there's rule of law. And those things are no longer a given with us. The scariest data I've seen, organization did a poll of global citizens, took a statistically significant sampling. And for the first time in history, more people around the world think that China is a greater force for good in the world than the U.S., which says to me people are much more inclined to do business with China than they are with the U.S. And as someone who has run businesses, I've run businesses my whole life. They've always been global businesses because they've been strategy and brand firms. When I walk in to meet with LVMH or Samsung, Tata Motors, we're taken seriously. And also, when they do business with us, they want to do business with us. If I'd started a brand strategy firm in Pakistan or even in Thailand, they're just less inclined to do business with you because they don't know you, they don't trust you as much, they don't think you're as innovative, they probably don't think your employees are as good, they're not as confident you're going to uphold your side of a legal contract. The legal contracts aren't as easily, agreed to because they're not as consistent with a kind of American or Western law. Yeah. All of that we have had massive benefit from, and I don't think American consumers realize how much they benefited from that, and they're going to realize it when everything just gets a little bit more difficult. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with most of that. I'll defer to your expertise on the economy side of things, so I concur with it. I just like putting on my former Republican hat, just on like the China hawk side of it. I remember we used to have kind of a Republican Party that was strong against communism, and that felt like wanted to use more of a Reaganite policy, toward in great power struggles. Like we've seen these guys.
Dean did not have a better Jubilee performance in Destiny. I feel like it's really hard to compare our Jubilee performances, just because. I'm not saying that one did like better or worse, but just because mine was so fucking unhinged. I don't know if that's normal. I feel like mine had an ungodly amount of like bizarro personal attacks. It was a lot of kind of wacky shit, I would say, but whatever.
Basically fold in the face of China. And I just think broadly, more geopolitically, think about the advantages China has gained over the past 5 months. I mean, in addition to the stuff you just laid out, the fact that we totally gutted USAID and we've eliminated any soft power we have throughout the world and created a huge opportunity for China to fill that void. Nice. To your point on the economic trading partner side of things, I think that if you are one of those Asian countries like Thailand that you just mentioned, like, I mean, don't you feel like you can trust China a little bit more as a trading partner than you could have 5 months ago? For sure. Then you look at the policy side of things, talk about leverage and weakness. I mean, we completely fold on the Liberation Day tariffs. Meanwhile, we also completely fold when it comes to TikTok. Right? And like the U.S. government puts into law a TikTok ban, but Donald Trump and this administration won't enforce it because they're afraid of the backlash.
Nah, well, kind of. I think that what happened was Trump saw. I mean, I don't have to guess because Trump just literally blatantly said it. Trump saw that he had way more support on TikTok than he initially thought he would, and then because of that, he ends up keeping TikTok. That's it. It's as simple as that.
From the American population. So like China's been so successful in infiltrating American culture through TikTok that and the power of that is so great that like the U.S. government is scared. Let's just be honest, scared to like enforce its own laws when it comes to banning TikTok. China State TV this morning, I saw this. They put this out. The outcome of trade talks with Trump team shows China's firm countermeasures and resolute stance have been highly effective. China gets nearly all tariffs off for doing very little other than agreeing to talk. That's their spin this morning. So I just think across every metric, we have made China stronger over the past 5 months in ways that, as you say, are going to be hard to unravel. Yep. And there isn't really any evidence that we are trying to like win a great power struggle with them. And I guess I would add just the last thing I'd say on it is, if you're China, it's hard for me to get inside the head of Xi Jinping, and I don't know what their plans are with regards to Taiwan or their timing, but I just do not think they could look at.
It's like having Trump is like a stupid Hitler. It's, you know what? You know who Trump is? It's like this.
Oh, you blind bloody fool! You can't insult me! We've had vicious kings, and we've had idiot kings, but I don't know if we've ever been cursed with a vicious idiot. You can't!
A vicious idiot. He's not even smart.
At America right now and think that we would put up any real resistance to their efforts to overtake Taiwan if they want.
Okay, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but I will say this one more time, I guess. And by one more time, I mean probably a million times. So Gamer Girl Feet in DGG chat says, Drawlin, well, I'm not saying you're ignorant, my friend. I'm simply voicing my view on punching left, when the majority of people who lean left are not the cringy caricatures that the right and people like Destiny try to paint. Like one of my favorites is Roland Martin. I've never in my entire life said, and I don't believe that anybody who's listening to me gets the impression that I've said that everybody who leans left or everybody who's further left than me is cringy. I'm like, very obviously and very explicitly talking about the crazy left-leaning people or leftists on like TikTok and shit who are literally anti-electoral politics. I think everybody understands that when I say that. I've said that 1 billion times. I literally said I think AOC is like a shining star in the Democratic Party, probably one of my favorite Democratic politicians right now. I'm pretty sure she's significantly to the left of me on a lot of things.
Right now, and think that we would put up any real resistance to their efforts to overtake Taiwan if they wanted to do it, based on how we've acted with regards to Ukraine, how we've acted with regards to this trade war. So I just think that we've weakened ourselves pretty noticeably across a variety of different metrics vis-a-vis China.
Yeah, I think the short-term winner is Europe, because China wants to keep these factories humming, so they'll have a lot of excess supply that they'll be willing to sell at a discounted rate. And I think the EU is about to get a massive amount, kind of for sale on a ton of products. The medium and the long-term winner, I actually think, I agree with you, is China. I know firsthand that their commerce executives and business people are roaming around Europe and Latin America saying, hey, you may not like us, but you can trust us. We do what we say we're going to do. And I was actually at dinner with the CEO of one of the largest companies in China, and he said, yeah, for the first time, we're talking to European companies about providing cloud services. And the general reaction was always, we don't trust China to store our data in the Chinese cloud. And now the question is, okay, we don't trust you, but we don't necessarily trust American companies now either. So this is not only
Elon Musk Starlink. Like, they're like, are we going to trust Elon Musk with the internet access? I think that there are going to be some countries that are going to look at that both ways now. Some will want to do that deal because they feel like it might be a way to get good favor with the Trump administration. But I think others are going to feel about that the way they might have felt about China a couple of years ago.
We also have to do a better job as Democrats. I think of who has been good at pushing back on autocrats. And I learned this. I did an interview with Ann Applebaum, and she said, if you take Alexander Navalny as an example of someone who was able to push back on an emerging kleptocracy or an autocrat, it was because he was able to connect it to people's lives, that he had this sort of motto when he was running against Putin that, okay, they're getting rich and there's still potholes in Moscow. And Elizabeth Warren, or Senator Warren, kind of summarized it nicely by saying, they're getting rich and you're getting your health care taken away. And I don't think we've done a really good job of explaining to the American people that a kleptocracy creates a small number of very rich people, whether it's the people who are tipped off to the launch of the Trump coin the Friday night before inauguration, small number of wallets, like 30 wallets, made $800 million, thing spikes, they dump the bag, and then over the course of the next several weeks, 800,000 smaller investors lost billions. And we haven't done a good enough job connecting that, okay, when Elon Musk, as part of our negotiation with UK around tariffs, gets a Starlink deal, that means every other American tech company, every other small business, and by the way, 98% of the companies that make their living from importing and exporting in the United States are small and medium-sized businesses who create 2/3 of the jobs in America, but don't have lobbyists, and they don't have enough money to get on Trump's lunch calendar or be part of Eric's executive, $500,000 a year kind of fraternity, if you will. Those are the people that get hurt the most. And I don't think we as Democrats have done a good enough job connecting the dots there, or that say, look, kleptocracy is a small tax and then a medium tax on everyone, such that we can funnel a massive amount of money to a small number of people. All right, let's move on here.
To the music
take one
segment?
quick break. Stay with us. Support for the show comes from Shopify. It's no small thing to start a business. I remember when I was starting out, and could have used Shopify, could use some infrastructure, could use some help. Anyways,
okay, we're listening to
Welcome back. On the immigration front, a federal judge's blocked.
Gamer girl with no feet would be even more goated. What was that? Wasn't there a fucking was this actually a hentai game, or was it? Or did people just say that? Kataru Shouju? What am I thinking of? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Katawa Shouju? Is that what it was called? Did I actually get that? Or are you making fun of how I pronounce it? Katawa Shouju. Oh my god. It's because I was a huge fan of that game, okay. Was that game actually like a hentai visual novel, or did people just end up drawing a bunch of like porn about it?
What may be one of the Trump administration's most extreme efforts yet, the planned deportation of detainees to Libya. ISIS detained Asian nationals in Texas and allegedly pressured them to voluntarily agree to be transferred to prisons controlled by armed militia in eastern Libya, despite widespread reports of torture and human rights abuses in those facilities. At the same time, Trump is touting a 95% drop in illegal crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border compared to last year. Tim, is this a fear tactic designed to intimidate future migrants into staying away or self-deporting? What do you think is going on here?
There definitely is a desire to try to intimidate people into self-deporting, and they're actively doing this. They're running ads calling on people to self-deport right now throughout the country. So there's that. Weird. I think there is a little bit of a sadism to the Stephen Miller wing of the Trump administration. I think some of them like the idea of doing these kind of outlandish types of deportation plans because A, it's intimidating. B, I think they get some kind of pleasure out of it, maybe erotic pleasure, I don't know, but it's hard to keep track of all this stuff. But the Libya thing is the latest. There's another story, I guess a week or two ago, of a guy, Omar Amin, who got deported to Rwanda. He was from Iraq, and had been pretty thinly, and I think quite clearly falsely, accused of being part of ISIS when he was in Iraq. He'd then come to America, brought his whole family here, went through the refugee vetting process, was living in Sacramento, was working, did not have any crimes in America, but he was accused. There was some cable where he's on a list of people that were ISIS members. Him and his lawyer says that's false. Anyway, he gets jailed during the first Trump administration, has been jailed since then, and we just sent him to Rwanda, where he's not from. And we have there's another situation I was just reading this morning in New York with these two guys who are 19 and 20, graduated high school. Were from El Salvador. Their parents brought them here when they were kids. They hadn't broken any laws, were good students, spoke English, and they went to their immigration checkup. They ended up getting shackled, sent to Louisiana, and now are about to be sent back to El Salvador, where they don't remember or know anybody in El Salvador. So all of this, is part of the broader effort to, yes, intimidate, and to send a signal to the world that people aren't welcome here anymore. And that's what they want, right? I mean, the only people they're going to welcome into this country are white Afrikaners from South Africa. I don't think you've got to,
you see, we got our first 43 Afrikaners here in the poor refugees from South Africa. My disposition is that the South African white genocide shit is all fake, but that's just because the people who promoted it were people that I didn't trust at all when it came to reporting on racial issues. So it might actually be a big deal, and I'm just biased. I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. It could be that maybe there is some really fuck shit going on there, but I feel like there was a day or two that I spent trying to dig through it where people were saying that people were the victims of like racial killings, like black people were trying to get vengeance and white people would kill them. And then I feel like when I looked into it, they just looked like robberies. But then other people were saying, well, no, they're targeted robberies of white people. And it's like, maybe, I don't know.
Read between the lines too much on that. And it's outrageous. And I think that, part of the stuff, to your point, the last thing about Democrats, I think that the more Democrats can just speak, whether it's about the economy or whether it's about this stuff, in normal language and focus on things that people understand. People really don't want kids that were brought here when they were 4 to be sent back to El Salvador. Like, that is not a popular policy. They don't want people to be grabbed off the street by masked agents and sent to a prison camp in El Salvador or a prison camp in Libya. Like, those are not popular things. And I think that you can talk about those things in regular language that speak to American values while also, not going down crazy lefty open borders like territory. And I think that it's important to be able to do both.
Yeah, I'm of two minds on this. The first is this is still his most popular policy. And there's just no getting around it. I feel like a lot of this was the Democrats sticking their chin out and just waiting to get tagged hard. 250,000 people crossed the border in December of 23. We were just sort of asking for it. And then they see, okay, them getting Trump, or Biden-Harris hats and free phone cards and hotel rooms, and Americans saying, okay, there's something wrong here. But I've never understood about this whole argument, or where I feel Americans fail to see what's going on, is that immigration is obviously the secret sauce of America, but I've always thought, I'm kind of where Friedman was on this, and that is the most profitable part of immigration is illegal immigration. Because they're essentially the most flexible, inexpensive workforce in history. When there's crops to be picked or old people to be taken care of or dishes to be washed, and we can't afford or find domestic workers, the reason why it's fairly inexpensive to eat out is because of illegal immigration. Some cities, somewhere between 15-25% of fast food workers are undocumented workers. And in addition, they generate a surplus of $100 billion in the Social Security program because most of them are younger and they don't stick around for Social Security. They pay their taxes and then they go back. A mass deportation effort, some estimates put at 4 to 7% loss or reduction in GDP.
I kind of bring this up every now and then, but it feels like a lost cause because it's so anti-intuitive or unintuitive. And I know that when I bring it up, I'm literally the only time in a lot of people's lives that they have ever heard this argument given ever. So it just feels like I'm doing like some libcuck apologia. But illegal immigrants are a fiscal boon to the United States. Fiscal meaning when it comes to state or government budgets. They have a propensity to not consume too much healthcare or other types of welfare programs because you have to fake a lot of documentation to get there. And it's just very hard to collect any of those programs. But if you do steal a Social Security number or steal some kind of like welfare number, it's easy to just collect a legit paycheck and pay taxes into that system. But it's hard to get money out of it. Cato Institute, I think, does the most research on this, but most research, I've never seen anything that contradicts this. Illegal immigrants tend to be quite the fiscal boon. And then if you don't like them or if they get caught with a crime, you want to just like kick them out. So that it's like very, very easy, very good in a sadistic sense kind of for your budgets, but nobody is.
And also they're 90% of the undocumented population is working age. About a third of agricultural workers, a quarter of ground maintenance workers, and about a quarter of all food service workers are undocumented. So I mean, your prices are going to go up, folks. And there's this trope, and there are some very bad people. I do not believe in open borders. I believe you have to have a country. The question I would have for you, because I don't feel as if I'm very knowledgeable, I have deep domain expertise around immigration, is that we want to demonize immigrants. But wouldn't the fastest way to solve this problem to go to the demand side, and that is say to Chipotle or lawn care companies, we're doing random audits, and based on the percentage of people who are clearly undocumented, we're going to find you $10,000 a day. Because they don't come here to rape to rape. These immigrants don't come here to commit crimes or to start gang warfare. They come here for jobs. And if you went on the demand side and basically hit those nice American people with real fines such that they started implementing, and they could do this with biometrics or, just simple documentation, verification. If there's no jobs, if it's like, okay, I'm sorry, I can't hire you, they melt back to where they came from. But we don't want to do that, do we?
No. Yeah, two thoughts on this. One is, and I think that it reveals a lot about why they're targeting, who they're targeting, what the motivations are. This administration doesn't want to go after business owners directly, right? I mean, if they get hurt by the tariffs because Trump's obsessed with tariffs, that's one thing, but they're not trying to make enemies of people that they think voted for them or possibly voted for them, small business owners. Plus, on top of that, Donald Trump is an employer of illegal immigrants who worked at, his hotels and golf courses, which he knows. So they don't have any interest in doing that. You're exactly right. They could. There's e-verification. I mean, this has been something that border hawks, immigration hawks have been proposing ever since I've been in politics. In fact, many of the candidates I worked for supported that as it was something that's on your policy agenda in the campaign, but then you don't actually put into place in government e-verify because you don't want to actually punish the small business owners that are likely Republican voters. So what they're doing now is they feel like low risk, right? Like there are probably some working class Hispanic voters that moved over to Trump that are starting to have maybe a change of heart because they had a cousin or a friend or something who is not a criminal, who's been deported, or they know somebody who has. So there's going to be a little bit of a risk there. But broadly speaking, if you take an 18 and 19-year-old El Salvador, kid that was brought here, that can't vote, was brought here illegally by their parents, and you send them back.
You can argue against the right about illegal immigrants. They say, oh, you like slave labor, that's why you want them here. I mean, if they buy into that premise, then you can very easily. The thing is to just get people off of the dumb arguments. Like conservatives will try to do this thing where they're like, oh, well, we don't like them because they're fiscal drains. Like, bullshit. That has nothing to do with any of this. You don't stop. When will conservatives lose the right in U.S. politics? When will they lose the right to complain about the budget? Like conservatives have underperformed Democrats on fiscal stuff for the last 30 years, since a lot of people here have even been alive. Can we stop giving conservatives credit about giving a fuck about the budget or about the government spending or anything? Because you clearly don't give a fuck, or it doesn't show ever.
Back to El Salvador, you're not paying a political price for that in any meaningful way, and it is immoral. It's an affront to what the country is supposed to be about, and it's an affront to the very American ethos of people wanting to come here and have an opportunity, but you're not paying a political price there. There's obviously some racial elements to it, as referenced earlier with the white Afrikaners, but it's also just they feel like it's much more politically palatable to go after 18 and 19-year-old kids that would have been, dreamers or whatever, than it is to go after American business owners. And just one really quick thing on the economy. I agree. This all takes time. This is going to happen now. But just adding on to what we talked about earlier with tariffs. Okay, you got onto that. We're deporting a bunch of people that are working, doing cheap work. We're not bringing in nearly as many people as we were. So the shutting down of the border is good in that it's shutting down some of the fentanyl traffic and some of the gang labor, but it's also shutting down people that were coming here to work. And then on top of that, we're firing a lot of people in the federal workforce. We're putting them on the sidelines. They're probably going to end up getting paid anyway. So we're going to be paying them to do nothing while that goes through the courts. And it's harder for recent college grads to get jobs, in a lot of these areas because people don't know what's going to be happening with the government. I just think that there are a lot of economic factors there that are.
What does the budget have to do with slave labor? Well, nothing, but conservatives don't give a fuck about slave labor. They don't care about any of these moral issues for immigrants. It's some other shit that they care about. That's it. But get them off the weird budget talk because they clearly don't give a fuck about it, and then have a more honest conversation.
Pointing to a pretty bad situation, once it all starts to hum through the economy.
Let me put forward a thesis and I'll get your response to it. So I have a 17-year-old son, and there's been reports and verification of actual people who aren't criminals, people who were brought here, grew up here, being deported, some ending up in these hellscapes prisons, and also reports of U.S. citizens. And my view is, unfortunately, that a lot of Democrats who are very wealthy clutch their pearls and say at dinner parties how outraged they are, but they don't really do a fucking thing about it. Because there's this emerging what I'll call transnational oligarchy, togarchs. And that's, if you're in the 1%, you have a disproportionate amount of power. And without you, it's very hard to get anything done without your support. And so it's easy to complain about it at dinner parties. But the reality is in America that your rights have become a function of your wealth. My kid is not going to be sequestered by ICE and sent to El Salvador. There's just zero chance that could happen. I will not be silenced because I have the money to lawyer up. Anyone in my life that becomes pregnant, I don't care if I'm in deepest, reddest Mississippi, I can get access to family planning because I have money. And if shit really gets real, and on the, quite frankly, just the unlikely chance we start rounding up Jews and I get on the wrong list, well before that, I have the money to piece out to Milan or Dubai.
Yeah.
And what that creates is this lack of incentive or this divesting of the most powerful's interest in America. And that is, whereas before, I think the really wealthy thought, I'm going to stay here. If this could happen to them, it could happen to us. But now there's a feeling amongst me, well, I was turning this back to me, but among the real...
I really liked the, somebody made a tweet. Do I like it or is it just sad? Does anybody have a link to somebody just made a tweet and it was like, the year is 2014. Barack Obama accepts a $500 million plane from some country. He tells you that he absolutely won't use this or it's not going to influence his opinions or foreign policy. And it's just like, even just like reading it, like I can already see the conservative brains exploding like just reading that tweet and imagining what it would have been like. Was it the Onion guy that the Onion tweet? Fuck. Is his name Tim Onion? Somebody just typed that in. Oh, maybe it was on a blue sky. But it's 2015. President Barack Obama has accepted a Sky Palace jumbo jet from the Qatari government, which he'll own after he leaves office. Everybody relax, he says in an interview with the New York Times. Everyone does. The networks then televised the military parade in his honor on his birthday. It's just like... I still need to find out if Trump can actually keep this jet.
Happen to them, it could happen.
I still don't
to
know the answer to that.
Us. But now there's a feeling amongst me, well, I was turning this back to me, but among the really wealthy, they were insulated from some of this, that it really doesn't impact us. So we have our own schools. We have our own security. We have our own healthcare. We have our own legal rights. We're protected by the law, but we're not bound by it. And it creates this really unhealthy ecosystem where the most powerful in our nation, even who claim to have progressive values, really don't feel that same sense of vested interest in the maintenance and fidelity to American values. Because at the end of the day, we're kind of global citizens. And our governance is the dollar. We're basically how much money we have. And we can find those rights somewhere else, even if they're violated here. Your thoughts?
I think that there's some of that. Look, you're always going to paint with a broad brush in these sort of situations. Like there are certainly rich liberals that are out there doing what they can, and others that are, feel like how you did. And I hear from Bulwark listeners, like upper middle class people, that have come up to me and say that they're thinking of leaving. Like I had a woman just over the weekend that was like, I'm thinking about moving to Australia.
Wait.
This sick ass fucking invention. I don't know who made it, but they're the fucking GOAT. It's called a firm. We can basically just get a loan on our flight. So fucking sick. It's like a free flight. We got a fucking payment plan for our flight. $16 a month, 34% APR, $0 due today. Confirmed. We're going to Miami for free. This sick ass fucking invention.
Wait, that sounds awesome.
Husband is a citizen or something, and I was like, don't leave. I'm not going anywhere. You're fine here. You actually, because of what you just laid out, Scott, like if you're a citizen of this country that has enough money for a lawyer, like you're in pretty good shape right now. We'll see how things look when Donald Trump is deteriorating at age 81 in 2027. Maybe my assessment will change on that, but as of right now, you're fine, and you should be staying here and should be fighting. So I think there's a little bit of that. I also think the Democratic Party, and this is going to go against my policy preferences is probably, but I think that from a political standpoint, this is important. Like, the Democratic Party has not done a particularly great job of recruiting people that are from the working class, that are from the non-globalist parts of America to be spokespersons for the party. A lot of times those people are probably going to be they're probably going to have different views from me on social and economic issues, right? Like I'm kind of a fiscally conservative, socially liberal, whatever cliche. Like the Democrats should probably be recruiting people that are more fiscally left than me and have some maybe contrarian social views, because that is like the most popular combination of political views for working class people.
Seeing everybody go crazy, or should I say go crazy? Maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but seeing everybody getting ass pained about Gavin Newsom's take on trans athletes, where it's like, guys, come on, we need to do better than this.
And I think the Democrats have done a lot of recruiting of people that like are maybe from somewhere in America and then were the valedictorian and then went to a fancy school and then worked at McKinsey and then went back to where they came from, or and nothing against any of those people, but they're going to have a set of views that are closer to what you just lined out, that have a more of a globalist kind of mindset. And I do think it would help the Democrats to have people that like authentically sound like they are from the communities that are going to be hurt by this.
Represent.
Yeah.
It shocked me a couple days ago. There was a new poll showing that if the election were held again today, that Harris would still lose, or that Trump would win.
Who would be doing a better job?
Really, though? Who would be doing a better job as president among registered voters who said they voted in 2024?
Job as president. Guess who comes out on top? Within the margin of error, comes on top. This is a lot like the election result, right? Trump 45%, 2 points ahead of Harris at 43%. 12% say they'd be doing about the same. But this is the key nugget here. It's not just about regretting that vote. It's literally saying who would be doing the better job.
I think you should look at this as a poll. This is a poll. For the election, it would come down to, like, you'd have to start going through the individual states to figure out who would actually win the election again, right? It's hard to say if that would come out the same way or not.
Right now, and Trump continues to score a higher percentage of the vote than Kamala Harris.
Yeah, my sense is,
shocked by that.
I was shocked by that, especially when you see the swing among young people. But I mean, it is what it is. And as unpopular as Trump is, the Democratic Party is less popular. And I think as we sit, again, crying into TikTok, the reality is the analogy I used to use was that the Panzer tanks come rolling into Poland and we're fighting Democrats. As Democrats were fighting them on horseback. And then someone reminded me, actually, that was a successful military operation. I should stop disparaging the heroes of the Polish army in World War II. So but my point is, the only thing that feels more corrupt in the Trump administration are kind of coarse and cruel right now is just how weak the Democratic Party is.
Yeah, well, it's not more corrupt, but it's sadder.
No,
It has more
weak.
impact. Yeah, more weak for sure.
Well, isn't America basically saying they'd rather have a corrupt autocrat than a weak Democratic Party?
A lot of Americans are. And here's the problem. This goes to your screaming the TikTok thing, which I do a lot. So I'll defend it. I'll defend the honor of it. But I do think it has its limitations, which is this: that, like, and this way, I bet you get pushback from sometimes from people when you say this, because there's like a decent, like there's a not nothing. You know, there's 40% of the country, maybe 33% of the country, who are super engaged in politics, are decently well off, middle class to upper middle class, went to college, read the news, you know, listen to podcasts or watch, you know, cable or read the newspaper or read magazine, whatever, engaged, know who their representative is, and are mad about what's happening, are legitimately mad about it, and are trying to figure out what to do about it. And the good news for Democrats is those people show up in these special elections and local elections. That's why Democrats are trying to do better in those than in the national elections. The problem is there's just another huge part of the country that are less informed. And I don't really even say that as a pejorative. It's just
Super
like they don't engage in political news. Maybe for some of them it's because they're working too damn hard and don't have time. Maybe for others because they'd rather play video games for 8 hours a day. But either way, like that is happening. And the Democrats.
What should the Democrats do right now then? It sounds memey, but I don't know. I feel like it's an apt analysis of the political environment. Democrats should literally look to YouTubers. They should look to the influencer model to figure out how to do politics, because right now, at least in the United States, politics is basically done on like an influencer thing. So how do you capture people's attention? How do you get it so that people like enjoy listening to your political figures? Basically tap into the kind of energy that people like AOC and Bernie have, but make that message more palatable to like the wider constituency that you're trying to appeal to, basically.
Democrats have like to that demographic, the Democrats feel very weak and they feel very disconnected and out of touch and not fighting for them. And it is just an absolute necessity that Democrats figure out how to find a voice that can connect with people that don't read the New York Times. And part of that, I think, is, as I just mentioned in the last answer, is like recruiting people, you know, not who play video games 8 hours a day, but who like look and sound and feel more like folks that are not part of that class of the 1/3 of the country that's super engaged.
Well, let me ask you that. Right now, if you had to say who are the leaders of the Democratic Party, you would point to Minority Leader Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Schumer. And I'm a fan of Leader Jeffries. I don't think he's the leader we need right now. And I think Senator Schumer is a fucking disaster. Who do you think, in your view, who are some of those emerging voices? Everyone keeps saying we have such a strong bench, and then they point to Westmore, and the list runs shallow.
Also, keep in mind too that like they're having this conversation. Keep in mind, Republicans struggled for probably like a year or two. Republicans were struggling after the election in 2020. Right? Remember, we saw all these people who were freaking out, trying to figure out, well, who's going to lead us? And it's got to be DeSantis. It's got to be DeSantis. And then Nikki Haley kind of comes out and, oh, maybe she can do it. Maybe it'll be Nikki Haley. Like, Republicans had these same issues as well. But then when people realized, oh, shit, okay, well, looks like people still like Trump, I guess. So Trump it is. Then eventually Trump became the guy again, you know?
Who do you see as potentially, and then everyone's getting excited about John Fetterman, and there's all these stories coming out saying that he's struggling. Who do you see as kind of the up-and-coming draft choices in the Democratic Party?
Well, I am on the weak bench side of this. Me and Carville argue about this. Carville feels very like the bench is really good. I don't really think so. But I do like Westmore. I think that you've seen like the AOC and Bernie are actually channeling something. I don't, obviously Bernie's really old.
Let me just push a pause there. My thesis is they're great. They're inspiring. There's no fucking way America's going to elect either of them.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at a panel, and this is part of like getting again outside of these pockets of.
Republicans are praying that Bernie or AOC are the nominee.
I was on a panel here in Louisiana, and I got the same question. I was giving the same answer I'm giving right now. And then I mentioned AOC, and a guy who I know, who's an older guy, who's a Democrat, Louisiana Democrat, came up to me, and he's like, my party is more insane than I even thought it was if they think that AOC can win this country. It's just like people that are outside of certain worlds just don't see things differently. That said, they've showed leadership, and I just wanted to mention it.
They're inspiring.
Yeah. If this is it's May 12th, 2025. If you took us to May 12th, 2013, and said Donald Trump is going to be the Republican Party leader, everybody'd say you're insane. If you took us to May 12th, 2005, and said that Barack Hussein Obama is going to be the Democratic Party leader, everybody say you'd be insane.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people have limits on their imaginations. Yeah. And I think that you look at like the two examples I've come up with, they're just totally different. Neither of these guys are going to be the leader of the Democratic Party, but Dan Osborne ran for Senate in Nebraska, way overperformed as kind of a working class, socially conservative, fiscally liberal guy. And like Democrats should recruit guys like that to run the midterms. Mark Cuban is like the inverse of him. There's like a business guy. And you could tell me that like either of those types of people could be the Democratic nominee in 3 years, and I would believe you. And so I don't know. I like Westmore fine. I like Josh Shapiro fine. I mean, there are other Pete. I hate, I think that I don't compete like as a 7-language speaking grad who worked at McKinsey, really like reached the working class people I've been talking about. I don't know, but he did pretty damn well on that Bro podcast, that Andrew Schultz podcast the other day. So maybe he can do better than I think. So there are people out there, but it's going to take real work. Scott Galloway, if he didn't live in London, might be an example.
Yeah, that shows us how desperate we are. Well, let me ask you this, just so we can fill the
Wait, does Scott live in London? Is he not in the U.S.?
comment section up with people calling me names.
Okay.
I think America is ready for a gay president. I don't know if the Democratic Party is. I think the way the Democratic primaries are held, that there's certain elements of the Democratic Party that would have an issue with Secretary Buttigieg, as evidenced by his poor performance. Thank you.
What did he
It's
say?
the Democratic Party that would have an issue with Secretary Buttigieg as evidenced by his poor performance.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why Scott didn't just say it. I feel like Scott's not a very politically correct guy, but okay, tell me about it. Yeah, that's is it Super Tuesday? Is where your huge firewall of southern states are? That'd be a hard one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a truth. Like, so I'm just gonna say this. Like, I have plenty of friends at the Pete campaign, and like Pete had some of his own issues with black voters in South Bend that may be totally unrelated.
Hot take, and I might be extrapolating too much from my experience maybe with women or something. I don't know. When people say they have issues with gay people, including black people saying this or whatever, I don't know if that's actually true, that they have huge issues with gay men, or if it's that they have huge issues with highly effeminate gay men. Like if you had a person who was like Pete is pretty ordinary and who's like, oh, he's also gay, I don't know if that would present the same problem, although it's hard to know without actually testing it, but...
They did the gay issues, but like they did focus groups with black voters, and in all those focus groups, there were some black voters that weren't cool with it. And that's just a fact. It's just reality. There are plenty of there are more white people that hate gays than black. You know what I mean? So I'm not like trying to make it a racial thing. That's just kind of a fact, and that would be a challenge for him. Is that going to be still the true in 3 years? I don't know. Is it something about Pete himself? Again, like Carville's line is always like the person that wins the Democratic primary is the one that can win the black church. And is like I could maybe imagine a gay candidate that would be able to do better in a black church than Pete. It's just like, is that like his natural space? Like probably not. But maybe so. By the way, I don't know. Like maybe he could really surprise and prove himself. I didn't think he'd do that well in that podcast. Pete has surprised at every turn. So I don't know. I think that broadly speaking, even outside of black voters, Democrats are like, what's the fucking old saying? Twice bit, thrice bits, once whatever. Just about. I think that they'll probably want to go for a straight white guy, or a straight black guy, just because like after the Hillary and Kamala experience, I think that a lot of Democrats are just to be freaked out about nominating somebody. And I don't know if that's true or right. I think there are other issues there, but right. I do think that there will be some of that.
Yeah, I think the Democratic Party at this point is like, okay, we absolutely need a female president, and we will have a female president. She'll be a Republican who has a reputation.
Is that just the one of the good ones argument? The ones racists use to prove they aren't racist because they have a black friend? No, I think it's because the ultra effeminate gay trope. I think that personality style, I just think is very annoying. I think I don't like those types of people. But that's not like a huge. Why do I have to say it's not because I'm homophobic? It's nothing to do with it. I just think that personality style is kind of annoying to a lot of people.
For likely drone striking your entire family if you run a stop sign. That's who's going to be the first female president.
Kristi Noem, she'll have a whole new face, and she'll have murdered a dog and have done a pin-up photo shoot in front of El Salvador torture prison.
Well, I hope and trust that she'll be out of government soon, but she's going to slipstream right into some sort of Cinemax prison film. I mean, that picture of her where it looked like a Sephora had exploded on her face and she was in front of a bunch of half-naked dudes. It literally felt like those prison films I used to watch in the 90s after my parents had gone to sleep on Cinemax. Okay, let's take a quick break. Stay with us.
Wait, why does this have no carbon?
Welcome back. History was made last week as Cardinal Robert Previs became Pope Leo XIV, the first American to lead the Catholic Church. Born in Chicago and shaped by decades of missionary work in Peru, Leo stepped onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica Sunday to deliver his first blessing. He called for peace in Ukraine and Gaza, urged leaders to reject war, and emphasized caring for young people and the vulnerable. His message and background signal a potentially progressive path forward. Tim, what does the new Pope's background and his first public message tell you about the direction that he may take the church?
I've got to tell you, my mother couldn't be more thrilled. I'm a little bit of a lapsed Catholic.
Well, that's
myself.
important.
As we were just talking about the gay stuff, but there were some jokes on the internet that he was the bulwark Pope, and it was like right in my mom's lane because he was, he voted in Republican primaries, I guess, in 2012 up until 2016, and then he stopped, and then he had multiple tweets criticizing Trump and Vance. It's pretty wild that we can go through the Pope's tweet history now. We are in a different world. He also is a graduate of Villanova, where my little brother went, so like touching a lot of bases for my daily church-going mother. Very
Good for the Miller family.
Very
Miller
thrilled.
family.
The broader thing, I don't know. I think that the College of Cardinals probably had a lot of things in their mind, not just the fact that this person was American or our domestic political concerns. And frankly, he hasn't even been in America that much. He was in Peru and Italy for most of his service to the church. And so I don't know. I will say this: it's whether they intended this or not. I do think it is nice to have an American on the world stage that is offering a counter view about what it means to be a person and a human than our president.
True.
And I don't know that he's going to be like the woke pope of every lefty's dreams on a variety of issues. Like the Catholic Church does, the Catholic Church's views on gender and sexuality and abortion and women priests and all that. But I think that he is someone that it's very clear that he actually cares about his fellow humans. He cares about humanity. And that is in direct contrast to the president who only cares about himself. And so we'll see what exactly it means for the Catholic Church. I think probably a continuation of Francis more than any big, massive changes based on the Catholics in good standing in my life. TBD a little bit on all that, but just as a former PS2 PR, marketing and PR people.
Is it not telling that these larger religious figures are outwardly criticizing Trump for his rhetoric? Catholics and everybody else, nobody gives a fuck about religious shit ever. It's just kind of like a thing you do to virtue signal. That's it. I don't know what else to say. Sorry.
Well, like,
that's been true even since I was a kid.
It's good. It's nice PR for America at a time where our PR is pretty shitty.
My thesis is that this is the third world leader that got elected by Trump. Anthony Albanese, Mark Carney were both supposed to lose, especially Carney overcame a 25-point deficit. And I think there is such a gag reflex globally around Donald Trump that he is electing world leaders, just not the world leaders that he's hoping would be elected. And I think this is another example when I think the papacy is really strategic and says, where can we have the most impact? And part of that is which region is struggling and would benefit most and get the most attention around these very humanistic values and code of decency. And when the Eastern Bloc was struggling, they picked someone from Poland. And I don't think it's any accident that they picked an American Pope. That they said, if we are really troubled by what this lack of humanity, the call sign, or I think the statement that literally identifies America right now is the following. It was made by Bill Gates, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's thematically the same. The world's richest man is killing the world's poorest people.
Based. I'm going to rebel. Hold on.
And that to me, like when Bill Gates said that, it was one of those moments where I thought, it like just hit me so hard in the gut. I thought, wow, that's what we've become? Like literally, that's us now. And so I think they see an opportunity, not only for attention, but a chance to restore and have influence on Americans who obviously disproportionately carry weight and gravity and influence around the world. For, I think, more Americans and more elected officials will pay closer attention to what this Pope says, and that a restoration, a rejuvenation, an EpiPen, a Narcan to the American value system is really needed right now. And this guy, in addition to understanding technology and referencing AI, he is unafraid. He's called Putin's actions wicked. He has been...
Which is an upgrade from Francis, worth mentioning.
There you go. But I think, again, Trump has gotten another world leader elected. And I think they see a big opportunity here to have an American Pope who will, again, get a greater, probably greater sort of bandwidth or airtime because of his origins. And that America is really in need of sort of a values upgrade, if you will. Thoughts?
Sad, but true. It's hard to argue. Again, I don't claim to, I could give you a lot better analysis of the Electoral College than the College of Cardinals, and so it's hard for me to get inside there.
They do get branding, though, don't they? White
maybe
smoke?
It's more interpersonal. You know what I mean? I don't really know, but I think that the impact of what you're saying, whether or not the intention was there, is definitely correct. I agree with the analysis, and I'm sure that for certain members of the college, it was part of it. And Francis, to my understanding, did put in a lot more people in his mold, into that college, and so I wouldn't be surprised if at least among some of them they thought that this was a nice contrast to the American president, particularly at a time of, where America is struggling. And I'm glad you mentioned that Bill Gates quote, because that also hit me like a ton of bricks. It's terrible. The USAID thing is so unimaginably terrible. And it's like, you run out of reasons to talk about it on shows like this, right? Because there's no new news about it. But it is truly abhorrent that we took something that was, a tenth of a penny, in our federal budget that was, giving HIV medicines to people in Africa and feeding the poor, and we've cut it because Elon Musk broke his brain by reading too many tweets. I mean, it's a truly deplorable state of affairs.
Well, we've spent 80 years developing an expensive and worthwhile brand association that, in the short term, we make a lot of mistakes, but it's mostly out of stupidity or naivete.
Brand association is real, though. I worked for McCain, and I talked to Mark Salters, his ghostwriter and longtime speechwriter, and traveled the whole world with him. And Salter said, the American brand, you would go with McCain to these random corners where...
Do you feel like people overstate America's effect on the world, like the Pope being elected because Trump bad feels very weird? We have a very international political system, and America exports a lot of its stuff to other countries. Like, everybody around the world follows American politics. It's pretty important.
Where people were fighting against autocrats, or where there had been a big natural disaster, and he would travel there, and he's like, people in random villages in in small towns and remote corners of the world to be like, America, John McCain, like that brand was that strong. And I do think that we've essentially just ruined it forever, certainly tarnished it in a matter of 5 months.
Oh, we've set it back decades, but that association, one of the core associations on a very basic level, is I've always felt like we're the good guys.
Yeah.
Do we make dumb mistakes? Are we gluttonous? Are we obnoxious? Yeah, but we're the good guys. Our heart's in the right place. And I think in just probably in 3.5 months, we're no longer the good guys. Yeah. And there's this notion that in regions where there's no investment, you get just such an enormous return on investment. It's basic economic theory. We were getting such enormous ROI on these small investments in terms of preventing kids from getting infected, having AIDS transmitted from their mothers to them, which is some very inexpensive, wiping out malaria, toilets to such that, thousands, even millions of young boys and girls didn't die of dysentery. And we've taken what is probably the greatest ROI investment because there's so little investment in these regions. No other nation would make those investments.
Wait, DSP break. Based. People are just mad because DSP plays games how the fuck he wants to play, okay? And he's a god at it.
And we decided those are the investments that we're going to pull back. It really is depraved. But circling back, I do think that the papacy recognized this and decided that they could have the most impact with a pope that more Americans would listen to. So Tim, I want to go off script for a minute. I'm fascinated by Tim Miller. I have found myself just so drawn to your content and how you bring the strength and fearlessness and real emotion and real empathy. What's your origin story? I don't know that much about you. Like, how did Tim Miller get to here right now?
I appreciate that. I don't know about you, but this is not false modesty, because I can be a narcissist like any other content creator, but I do find it weird to like process people consuming my stuff all the time, right? Because when I try to just emote and be authentic and just say what I really think and not actually think about the audience like as much as possible, and so I do sometimes makes me uncomfortable when I start hearing about thinking about Scott Galloway consuming my rants. But man, so I was a Republican operative. I was just a PR flack, essentially, for Republicans, usually moderate Republicans, but I was also a hired gun, so I have some shameful Republicans on my resume as well. And, I came out of the closet during that process, and so I was probably like the most... there have been a lot of prominent Republicans who like were either outed or became gay after, like when they retired, like Ken Hellman or Larry Craig or like, whatever. But as an active person in the party, I like right around all the time of the gay marriage stuff, I was like the most like visible. And so I do think that gave me just kind of a relationship with all of it that was maybe a little bit different than other hired guns. Like I dealt with like being separate from the party on something that was very core to me, throughout this process. And so when Trump came along, I don't know, part of that, I think it just made it easier for me just to say, no, fuck this. And as part of my hired gun process, a bunch of rich guys hired me in 2016 to be the face of a basically Republicans against Trump effort, like anybody, like it's like whoever it is. So I just went on cable and argued with Trumpers and pitched negative stories about Trump to people. And then when Trump won, I went through a massive midlife crisis about what the hell to do with my life.
Pretty early midlife.
Yeah, early midlife crisis. I had a very early midlife crisis, an extended one. And I started doing some of these podcast stuff on the side, literally. And I was like, I was lost. I was like, should I?
Wait, another quick DSP break. What is this?
Mariah Scary says, I just moved to another state. Any advice? Well, Mariah, what ethnicity are you? That's the question. Why do I need to know that? I don't need to know that. You're white as fuck? All right, so here's what you do. I have to preface this saying this is a joke, all right? You're in a brand new place. You don't know about how it is out there, right? So what you do is you walk outside, you walk to the middle of the street, and you just turn to the sky and you yell out at the top of your lungs, if it ain't white, it ain't right. And you see what happens. If you see people starting to pull out weapons and cocking guns, you start running. And now you kind of know your way, Oh, shit. Jump over the fence. Whoa.
I think he's just telling a really bad joke. I don't know.
I do corporate PR. We adopted a kid at that time. I was like, should I just be a 9-to-5, guy and like do PR for Clorox bleach or something and like have a regular job and coach the kids' sports teams? Forget all this. Should I whatever do figure out like try to fight within the party against Trump? And I was like totally lost. And my colleague Sarah Longwell, who's an old friend of mine, started the Bulwark, and I started kind of doing Bulwark stuff for fun. And I don't know, man. I think that there's something about the fact that I think that I was lost and did not have like a little birdie in the back of my head saying, hey, think about your career and like what other job, you might be White House press secretary in the future. You might want, who knows what will happen after Trump ends. Like I just didn't have that.
Wait, fuck. I'm sorry, we'll finish this. 8 minutes left. Hasan's having somebody said Hasan is close to having a breakdown on stream watching Asmongold.
Banned from living a free life. Notice how there is this unique space where a lot of people love chirping from their hug boxes and refuse to entertain a direct conversation.
Really, Hasan?
He literally did not cheer and said you shouldn't have been detained. You should stop pandering to your audience. What are you talking about?
The king of hug boxes? His audience must see that.
It's good. We don't want people like you who are terrorists to keep saying terrorism when talking about my detention. Not only that, but he has also routinely demanded that I get banned because he didn't understand what I was fucking saying. His own personal misunderstandings are the reason as to why I should be banned off this fucking platform. I mean, you could just stop promoting that stuff, and I'd imagine it would all stop. That
nope.
First
he's
Amendment
too
is pretty
big.
based, even if it applies to you, homie. Wait, I'm actually ignorant. What right do I risk losing here? I mean, you could just stop promoting all that stuff. Don't you understand that that is literally the point? Yes, you are unironically advocating for no free speech when you say, well, if the government's going to come after you, maybe you should shut the fuck up about that sort of thing. That's the whole point of free speech. You might not agree with me on this, but I have a firmly held conviction here that is rooted within facts, okay? Your favorite content creator might not recognize that, but that doesn't change the reality. Self-censorship is a chilling effect on free speech. It's the whole point of the fucking First Amendment.
Wow. Oh, he's a big free speech guy now, huh?
I agree with detention stuff being fascist, but how many times do you act like supporting jihadism and jihadist organizations is about being libertarian or anti-fascist?
Oh.
When have I promoted or supported a jihadist organization? Do you think Hamas or Ansar Allah or Hezbollah are jihadist organizations and jihadism?
They're Islamist.
Once again, that's your
Wait, they
inability
literally
to
call
comprehend.
Hamas literally
The difference
calls
is
for global jihad against Israel constantly. Or did they stop this recently? Wait, what?
Organizations that are engaging in militancy against a settler colonial entity in the fucking region. Okay?
Okay, I'm good. I can't. Hold on. Let's finish this. Sorry.
It was a little bit unfettered, I think, and so we created at the Bulwark with Sarah and JVL and others like a community of people who really liked that, and I think that was important to them, like our OGs, because they were also kind of lost, and so I don't know, man. That's how I ended up doing this, and I think there is something freeing about being a former Republican versus being somebody who comes up as a Democrat in their background, because I just don't. I have some of the Republican traits of aggressiveness. I've not been beaten down by the Democratic traits of community building. So I think that has helped. And also, I just don't I'm not plotting who might hire me for the 2028 primary in the way that maybe some Democratic commentators are. So I don't know. Is that good? Was that a good backstory for me?
Curious I have trouble. I would say that from 0 to 30, I didn't have enough stress. I almost failed out of UCLA a couple times. Didn't bother me. Was on the verge of being kicked out of UCLA.
Actual footage of Hasan. Actual footage of Hasan in the airport detention center.
I'm John Nevins with the U.S. Consulate. I just have a few questions for you. You're coming out of Tangier, is that correct?
Yeah, I talked to the Houthis.
What's the nature of your visit to Naples?
I was interviewing Houthi leaders.
Ha detto qualcosa?
And Hasan is like, I had to debate my way.
I understand.
Oh, that was the phone call from Ethan. Do you have Hasan Piker there? He's anti-Semitic, and he's banned from Twitch.
I understand.
Banned from Twitch. So I told them over and over again that the Hamas is on the U.S. state terrorist list, and I got out. The Covenant of the Hamas. Main points. This is a translation of excerpts from the original 1988 Charter of Hamas. A translation of the full document is here. What do they mean when they said this? Its covenant is a comprehensive manifesto comprised of 36 separate articles, all of which promote the basic Hamas goals of destroying the state of Israel through jihad, Islamic holy war, following are excerpts of the Hamas covenant. The call to jihad. The day the enemies usurp part of Muslim land, jihad becomes the individual duty of every Muslim. In the face of the Jews' usurpation, it is compulsory that the banner of jihad be raised. Ranks will close, fighters joining other fighters, and masses everywhere in the Islamic world will come forward in response to the call of duty, based, loudly proclaiming, "Hail to jihad." This cry will reach the heavens and will go on, being resounded until liberation is achieved, the invaders vanquished, and Allah's victory comes about. There is no solution for the Palestinian problem except by jihad.
UCLA, which would have been really bad for me. I didn't really care. Almost lost a couple businesses. Was very reckless with my relationships. Just didn't have as much anxiety, quite frankly, as I should. I think from 30 to 40, I had the perfect amount of anxiety. Worried enough to be successful, but not worried enough where I couldn't sleep. And now I have too much anxiety. I worry about everything. And you have a kid. Like, if I'm not anxious about one of my kids during the day, something's wrong. That makes me anxious. I feel like I'm missing something. And I've had trouble disassociating from what is going on with America and our government right now. For the first time, politics is really sort of rattling me and taking a toll on me emotionally.
True.
Do you struggle with the same thing? Sometimes when I watch your content, I get the sense, I can hear it in your voice, like,
I don't disagree they're jihadists, but didn't they update this in like 2017? They did update their charter somewhat recently-ish. Maybe they changed that part, maybe.
It really upsets you. Like it really rattles you. One is, am I sensing that correctly? And two, how do you attempt to disassociate or keep things in perspective and get about your day and focus on your family and progress at the poll work?
Yeah. I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing, which got me into trouble in that past life that I talked about earlier. Like I probably shouldn't have compartmentalized with the fact that I was gay, with the fact that I was a spokesman for Republicans, but I was able to do it then. It's serving me a little bit now because I get rattled, emotional, and very mad. And like probably 3 times during the day I get very mad. And when I get actually mad, I try to channel that into the content because I said this after the election. I was like, I'm not going to do the fake mad thing. Like I'm not going to pretend to care about things I don't care about. And like sometimes there's Trump stuff that makes other people really mad that I just either don't talk about or we'll talk about a little bit just because I'm like, I don't have any room in my body for the anger over this thing in part because I'm so mad about the immigration stuff and in particular the immigration stuff, but also other things they're doing. The trans military ban is one that got me recently, and so that's what I try to just have my honest emotions with people. How do I outside of that? I'm drinking too much, but I'm trying to go. I live in New Orleans.
I knew we were brothers from another mother.
I'm trying to go to, and I live in New Orleans, so I'm going to shows. I'm going to see music, and when I'm there, I'm drinking too much bourbon, but it is allowing me, and I'm enjoying my time there, and I'm being around. I have a lot of buddies here who don't stress me out about politics, and I appreciate all of them, and that is good. And then when I have a couple hours a day where I take on the parenting, and I just try to parent, and I'm like, I'm here. We're gonna play. We're gonna go to the basketball court. We're gonna do your homework. We're gonna be silly, and I try to do that, and not think about it. Every once in a while, bad thoughts come through when I'm parenting or drinking, but usually not. Like I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing it. A therapist might tell me that this strategy is eventually going to fail, and like those 3 parts of my brain are going to collide in a way that will create crippling anxiety. But that hasn't happened so far.
Most importantly, what did you do for Mother's Day yesterday?
Nothing. One of the great joys of being gay is that we don't have to do Mother's Day. I mean, I sent my mother a gift and we did a FaceTime with her. She lives in Colorado, and I have a great mother. But yeah, it's nice. I feel like we get a little bit freed from the conventions. Yeah. So some people trying to be
on Father's Day. Whew, that's a killer.
Nice and woke, like will wish us a happy Mother's Day, and I'm like, no, it's cool, like, no worries. And by the way, don't even have to do a happy Father's Day. It's fine. Like we have a little different family style. We went and had crawfish at Clessy's, which if you find yourself in New Orleans during crawfish season, I got to shout out Clessy's. It's the best spot. I watched the Nuggets game. It was a loss, unfortunately, and I yelled at the YouTube camera, took the kid to the park. It was great. It was a wonderful day. What about you?
I had a wonderful Mother's Day. I did nothing. I'm here in New York on my own, and I walked around Soho. I went to Jack's Wife Frida. I went to San Vicente Bungalows for brunch. It was
you went guilt tripped by the mothers in your life over that?
My mom is gone. The mother of my children is. I don't want to say it's Mother's Day every.
Have you beaten Space Age and went back to Optimize, or have you still not completed the game? I'm rebuilding my factory on this planet, and then I have to rebuild my factory on a kilo. And then once I've done that, then I just fly to the edge of the universe, and I should be done. I'm hoping to be done with this game within 2 weeks at the longest.
Every day, but we're pretty much in awe of her, and we plan a lot of stuff and do a lot of stuff, but we had some stuff planned for her to make sure that she felt loved. And quite frankly, she said that she just wanted to be alone, that was her Mother's Day gift. She just wanted all. Nice. She has three kids. But look, one of the really wonderful things about getting older as a man is you develop these really nice kind of paternal instincts or fraternal instincts where you're happy for people, you're happy for younger men. I have gotten real reward. I don't know you that well, but I've gotten real reward from watching you in this moment. I think you are so authentic and so courageous and have such great command of the medium. I get reward from watching your success. I'm really happy for you. I think you're doing a great job, and your voice is really important. And I just, I hope that you take time with your husband and your kid to pause and recognize how successful you are and what a difference you're making. And it's just fun to just observe it and watch it. Really appreciate all that you do, and very much appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you, Scott. I genuinely appreciate that. It means a lot. I'm getting tingly. I also, it sucks. I don't know about you. I do get uncomfortable with the compliments, especially when so much shit is happening. I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing the best I can, but I do appreciate it very much. It means a lot.
All right. That's all for this episode. Thank you for listening to Raging Moderates. Our producers are David Toledo and Chinenye Onike. Our technical director is Drew Burrows. You can now find Raging Moderates on its own feed every Tuesday and Friday.
How many fucking podcasts does this guy do? Kara's right. This guy's doing like 20 fucking podcasts. What the fuck?